What is up, everybody? This is Silver Spook, and today it's time to get really angry and scream at the camera so that I can get more YouTube views and likes and money from uh, other sad, angry man babies. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that. Today we will be talking about, however, we will be talking about the brand new show that has just come out, She-Hulk. And the angry man babies who are very mad about this. Not just that, but of course, but um, don't forget, of course, to subscribe, follow, share the stream, like the stream, etc., etc. Um, and also, well, I'm gonna have another announcement a little bit later. We did just put a new game out, but before let's actually talk about the topic for a little bit. If you have not watched She-Hulk, it is out. There is the first episode is out on Disney. Thankfully, I only have to watch one, and I have to watch 10 hours of content. Like I had to watch all of Sandman the last time. But anyways, She-Hulk is currently out. A lot of people are very upset. The people that you would people are really mad, and they're the kind of people that, well, you don't like them at any time. Most people, even they don't like themselves. They're kind of sad, self-hating losers. But you really won't like them when they're angry. And by them I mean most of the biggest content creators in the Western world, actually. People like the Quartering, people like I don't know, these, I don't even really care that much about these people, but they're constantly in feeds. People like there's that clown. She-Hulk Attorney at Law is a disaster. Men are blasted for leaving bad reviews. They hate men are trash. She-Hulk says men are trash and she's better than the Hulk. Marvel is putting out cringe. She-Hulk gets a rebound from men in their 30s. It just feels childish even reading some of this stuff. But I'm gonna discuss more important things than this eventually. But it's important to meet the people where they're at, and so where the people are at is like second grade. So we gotta like do little man baby, like little infantile discussion for a little bit. I mean, just to see what's going on. It's important to note that that's where people are. Um, and by people, I mean most of the men in the Western world. She-Hulk blasts men for disliking the show, fake positive reviews. What's funny is like this kind of stuff was lobbed at my when Neofeud first came out, my flagship game, right? It's about anti-racist, anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist, cyberpunk, cyberpunk odyssey. A lot of these same kind of gamers, 'cause I added to the list of man babies. Gamers is a major one. So-called gamers, the big capital G Gamergate gamers, fandom menace type people. The people who like get upset when Mortal Kombat's characters like have slightly less Triple H boobs. Those people were like came at my game and they said like this is SJW woke BS made by some N-word, and it's all asset flipped. It's all, everything is fake about it. That's a real accusation. Director says everything is fake because everything about these people's existences is fake, including their fake mommy and daddy bought successes. When they live in their parents' basement making right wing podcasts. So people like this though, they're really mad about She-Hulk. Abomination for wine moms with penis envy. So this is the kind of content that like really is taking off, and it's not. I mean, this is like, that's like YouTube channel having people, but it's not just that. Tucker Carlson is the most popular character in the United States, right? Which is the most powerful capitalist imperialist country in the world, right? Going away soon. I mean, there's more powerful countries that are not, but as the leader of the so-called free world, the United States is run by Tucker Carlson and that group of people. They're managing the United States right now. Them with the imperialists who are cutting deals with them, the Democrat imperialists that they're not anti-women, they're not anti-racist. They just pretend to not be. And so it's important to note that like this is kind of a ground sampling. This is like the sewer virus percentage runoff sampling. Like this is like dipping a little thermometer in the baby diaper of all the man babies and seeing like, because when they grow up, then become big man babies. Like when they become president, like man baby Joe Biden, right? Who was a mediocre white man like everyone else, like Elon Musk, right? He's a big man baby. He got really big, and pretends to be competent at things like, right, knowing cosmology and at what time in the stage of the evolution of the solar system the sun will go red giant. But he doesn't know any of those things, right? He can't even make a car that doesn't burst into flames like his Teslas, right? So it's important to note that, like, while these are little man babies, right, who are unfunny content creators like Steven Crowder, all these people, but they grow up to run the world, the Western world. That's kind of my point. But and so a lot of man babies can't control their anger, like Bruce Banner making She-Hulk's point. So that's like, I'll stop front loading this with all the I'm trying to make as many men as possible, because that's my goal. No, it's not my goal, but it's just kind of entertaining. But She-Hulk is the best for this bit alone. It's incredibly important for all men to understand. There's a very important part in this show, in seriousness, like, because Hulk, Hulk as a character. Well, let's rewind a little bit. So Hulk, right? Hulk is a character. Just the basics. I mean, everybody knows who Hulk is, because everybody and their cousin and their ex, who is currently playing games and watching porn and being alone as a man, and being mad as a single alone man. Everybody knows who Hulk is because of Avengers, right? And he's also, one of the most, visible, large characters, the quote unquote strongest Avenger, although, Thor disputes that. Should I say point break? The Hulk is like very recognizable, and the Hulk is also known for his, he's a rage monster, right? Or I think they actually call him that. He is the personification of angry man, right? He's a personification of quote unquote, like, not like Steppenwolf, but like animalistic base level rage. Like, he loses his ability to reason and think. He's a very Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, right? He's a very Mr. Hyde kind of character, in a sense. He doesn't have his higher mental faculties. He just smashes, right? And so the Hulk is about anger. I mean, in a lot of ways, or at least, many people have written the Hulk in the storylines of Marvel, which, jumping out a little bit, I obviously, I'm not the biggest fan of Marvel, generally speaking. Disney should pull its billions of dollars of investments out of Hawaii and stop crushing and illegally occupying Hawaii, and Disney Online specifically, and stop making movies about our culture without supporting actual Native Hawaiians and our struggle against genocide, illegal occupation, etc. But anyway, so that disclaimer aside, I'm generally, like, not in favor of giant, imperialist military industrial complex propaganda arms like Marvel and Disney generally. But Hulk is, he's a dude who is about the anger of men. It's particularly men. As a dude, which manifests as, like, direct violence, smashing, attacking, breaking things, throwing dishes, like yelling really loudly. And so the Hulk is a character who, and it's been okay for Hulk to be mad for a long, long time. Like, you notice the Hulk was the Hulk originally was male. The Hulk is there was eventually a She-Hulk, but it took a while. And She-Hulk is not literally as popular as the Hulk, right? Which is important because it's part of it's a bellwether of the fact that anger is a emotion that is acceptable for men in places like the West and the United States, and not so much for women. It's the absence of the woman Hulk for a long time is illustrative of the culture. Not necessarily that women aren't angry, right? Because that's the point of She-Hulk, the TV show they just started, the first episode anyway, is that, because there's that scene where Bruce Banner says, you know what my secret is? I'm always angry, right? But the thing is, like, I mean, obviously he's not always angry in that way because if he was, he would be turning into Hulk. And he's talking about that, like, you have to control your anger when he's trying to explain to She-Hulk, right, how to, when she first becomes She-Hulk. He's like, you have to learn how to control your anger. It took me like decades to figure out how to control my anger. 15 years to figure out how to control my anger, right? And it's like he does have to, right? Because he doesn't, because what it implies is before that he didn't control his anger, because it's acceptable for men to be angry and unleash their own tantrums whenever they feel like it in patriarchal cultures like the West, the United States, Canada, etc. And so when Bruce says, like, I'm always, my secret is, I'm always angry. I mean, on the one hand, it's actually he's I mean, he's kind of not. He's kind of lying, right? But on another hand, it's like it is always acceptable for men to be angry in these kind of cultures. And so, anyways, in this scene, right? So just for some background, the character is Jen, is Bruce the Hulk cousin, and she is a lawyer. She's on the career path to be a great lawyer. She's kind of like trying to prove herself in this new law firm, and then suddenly a car crash happens due to intergalactic, space alien Marvel superhero bullshit. Super villain enemies show up and do something. I'm not gonna tell you too much, but anyways, the important thing is to get a car crash. Some of Bruce's blood, right, in so some of Bruce's blood like drips into as She-Hulk is trying to, or I should say, Jen is trying to save Bruce as he's in the car crash, bleeding, and as she's like pulling him out and looking at him, some of his blood drips into her cut, and that causes her to, of course, I think that's part. I think in some of the previous comics, she gets an injection of the blood, like in this one, Jennifer Walters gets an injection. I think Bruce is trying to save her life because she's dying and he needs to inject her. There's just been several iterations of this, but the point is, like, there's some blood from with his gamma radiation infused superpower blood goes into her blood, and then that causes her to transform into She-Hulk and take on these new powers. And then so in the first part of the show, the first part of episode 1, he's then studying her and trying to help her and trying to teach her like how to deal with your new powers, how to be a Hulk. Bruce Banner brings out this big 3-inch thick binder called his it's called She-Hulk 101 Hulking Out 101, how to not like crush your ceilings and demolish your bed frames, always have a steel bed frame. It's like how to be a Hulk, but then like and part of always wear spandex, right? Who's your new best friend? Spandex. And so it's like how to be a Hulk 101, right? Society is gonna fear you and target you as a monster, and you're gonna have to hide, and you have with great power comes great responsibility, and all the speechification, right? And it's all like all the things that come with, and now you have to join our new superhero team because you're a superhero. You have these superpowers. You can stop super bad stuff like capitalism and colonialism. Oh wait, no, that's right. Avengers don't really stop that, do they? And anyways, you have to stop bad stuff like space Cold War Soviet Union, like Thanos. That's what he actually represents. Anyway, you can stop bad stuff though, but you're a superhero now. She-Hulk, you have to join my superhero team. And so, and as so Bruce is giving his cousin this long lecture, and she's listening, and she's not really happy with this because she's kind of like, well, I kind of don't want to be, I kind of, she's over there like, I kind of don't want to stay here. Maybe I kind of want to go back to my life. I want to go back to, I have this life where I'm going to be a lawyer. I've been studying. I've been working hard, trying to level up in the man's world. It's a man's world, and I have to work 3 times as hard. Still, right? Women are still paid like a fraction of what men are paid to this day, and put up with all of the mansplaining like you're doing right now, Bruce. To me, I know a lot of this stuff. I know how to control my anger. Anyways, because I'm a woman, and it's kind of like I don't want to just be a superhero that's like kind of it's not it's kind of dangerous, and you got lots of you guys. You're gonna get your loved ones hurt. And Bruce is like explaining, there's lots of you're gonna be chased by the military. Your loved ones will be constantly threatened. You can't lead a normal life. And she's like, yeah, I don't want that. You shouldn't you not want that for me? and anyways, so it's like there's just a lot of back and forth there. But trying to find a good one with Bruce and Jen. There's a lot of, but it's also like, they're like driving in the car in the beginning. It's like a lot of people are like upset, like She-Hulk She-Hulk's invalidates Bruce's experiences as having suffering and with a kind of broken home situation, his father mistreating his mom, being chased by the military, having to go in hiding, and it's been so hard for Bruce, and it's just invalidated. It's like I didn't get that. That's like some people's complaints about it, which like from the beginning, Jen and Bruce are pretty close. They're going on a camping trip. She's all like unraveling her. She's like nerding out about her theories about Captain America's actual virginity, and it's they have like a pretty good relationship. I think like it's like probably one of the most normal, healthy relationships ever in a Marvel anything. It's like she's not like out to get Bruce. I don't feel like she's like trying to attack. There's not really any time where she's like actively like invalidating, demeaning, dare I say, making him feel like a little boy. She actually tries really hard to not to say like he has male fragility, but she tries very hard to play with very soft, cotton padded kid gloves with his ego when he's trying to like explain things to her that she knows. Like that's actually a major part of the first episode. People like miss that. She's actually like, as opposed to being very violent and aggressive and destructive of Bruce, she's actually like being extra nice to him, which is how women are almost always expected to be to men. Oh, give him cookies because he what was it in the Sandman? We were just watching the Sandman, right? There's a scene where Sandman, he's a total dick the entire show. He's a giant spoiled man baby who just cries. He's like super powered, infinite lifespan, superhero fantasy Edward Cullen. He's just mopey and sad because he's so powerful all the time. It's just ridiculous, and he causes all his own fucking problems. And then there's a black woman who actually does all the work that maintains his kingdom. It's kind of like working at a corporation where a bunch of white men make billions doing nothing but crying and moping around, or shooting the shit with their golf buddies, and then women manage everything. All the corporations and nonprofits and governments that I've worked at, that's how it's always been. And the women don't get any credit, right? And then one time, Sandman. I was harking back to Sandman because I just want to dunk on. I want to dunk on Neil Gaiman's Twilight character. I'm sorry, the non-vampire emo boy. I'm sorry, Sandman. Sad white boy. So fucking this. He is like he throws many tantrums, and he's like, you go back, woman, you go back to the library. She's been running his empire, right? His kingdom. He's a monarch. Speaking of neo-feudal kings / CEOs, he is the CEO. I'm sorry, he's the king. I'm sorry, he's the slave master. Oh, that maybe that was too close to home. He is the leader in the Dreamland, right? And so he is, and he has his personal black woman manager that does all the work and doesn't get any credit. Kind of like the hidden figures at NASA that gave the white man credit for doing all the post-Newtonian calculus, putting a white man on the moon, a mediocre white man, Neil Armstrong, on the moon, and all the mediocre white mathematicians, lots and lots of salary, all the 3 black women. So it's actually, it's historically, this is how it always has been. And so the librarian, right, Lucien, right, Sandman, he gets angry and threatens. He actually he kills multiple of the dreams. And the Lucienne, the black woman who is doing all of his work for him, making sure things don't fall apart, understanding what a vortex is, how they come, all these things, for the 100 years, while he just goes off and cries in the fucking corner in a ball. I talked about it last week, right? And then comes back and kills people. He comes back and gets angry. Speaking of male anger, and offs Galt, right, who's not really doing anything wrong. And so all the women who are actually doing all the work, right, maintaining everything and doing all the labor value, right, and the dudes are doing the, I don't know what value, crying and breaking shit. It's not really labor value. It's more like crying and anger value. There's not really any value. It's a net negative, kind of like Elon Musk breaking his own Teslas by demanding that they all be made by 100% robots, even though that's inefficient, right? As explained by the disproportionately non-white men actual engineers at Elon's companies, by the way. And then he decided to break his own fucking vehicle. So Sandman is a lot like Elon in that sense, and like all white men that run the Western world. So he comes back, kills people for disobeying his orders that he wasn't around to give, and they're slightly mad at him. And then and then the black woman who has been managing the entire dream world for the last 100 years is just expected to get out of the way and let him be in charge again. And everyone actually, the thing is, right, this is how it was when I worked at the companies, like the one I was doing, even when I was doing science, tech, engineering, and mathematics for underserved, at-risk youth, right? Like what Neofeud is based on, my video game, being a social worker for the impoverished children and homeless children. The people that managed the company, right, they threw tantrums, cheated on their wives with the secretaries, white men, or just men. Sometimes they're not even white. And the ones that pass it or filter their way into that role in Hawaii, and then the women were always doing all the work. They're doing like 10 times as much actual work, managing. But they had like some like lower level job description, like secondary, tertiary, secretarial, something. It's like something that doesn't sound important. Like something assistant manager. Always the assistant manager that was a woman did all the work, and then the dude would just be golfing and collecting salaries and bullshitting around the water cooler. This. This is how everything operates in Western patriarchal capitalist world. And anyway, so the point is that so they would deny the existence of of all of this work, right? Say that, oh, that's just an assistant something secretary. Where's your oak desk? Where's your nameplate? Where's your Harvard degree? The secret of Harvard is everybody who shows up in Harvard gets an A for getting drunk and hazing each other, right? Like George W. Bush, who took a shit on his SAT and then got a 1600 because daddy fucking owns the SAT company, right? Former imperialist president of the capitalist superpower of the world, George H.W. Bush. So getting a piece of paper from an elite American or Western school like Oxbridge is... That's a certificate of mediocre angry man babiness. That's all that is. Does not actually qualify you to do anything. Mark Zuckerberg is not qualified to run his own companies. He even said, "You are a bunch of idiots for giving me your information. I'm gonna fuck you all over." Like he said that, right? It's even in the Social Network, which is funny that they allowed that to get made. But anyways, but Sandman is like those characters. He throws the tantrums. Right? He is incompetent at running his own kingdom. He fucks it up big time. He keeps himself in prison. As I elucidated last time, he keeps himself self-imprisoned for a century in his own glass ball in Mr. Burgess's basement because of his refusal to do basic communication. He could any time he could have got himself out, but he doesn't because I don't know. He was so angry that I guess he was so hulking. He was hulking out so hard, but like very quietly, like the nice emo skinny nerd version of hulking out as a white man. He's just like sitting there like hulking out for 100 years, like so angry. But the angrier it gets, the more emo and mopey his stare gets. The more flock of seagulls his hair gets. The more Edward Cullen-y sparkly white pasty his skin gets. The angrier it gets. Instead of big and green and muscly. That's like the CrossFit Andrew Tate Tucker Carlson fan version is like, oh, they get bigger. and they go to the gym more, and then they take, hydroxychloroquine and horse tranquilizer and other Windex infused steroids, and that's what makes you more Hulk out. Anyways, so there's the skinny goth white man Neil Gaiman dude, white man Hulk out, and then there's the giant exploding diarrhea. What was it? Horse dewormer to cure your COVID. Anyways, I don't know what these people are doing now. So but the point is that he comes back, he gets angry, he kills someone. Like he kills multiple people because they disobey him, right? And Lucien is doing all the work for the black woman, is doing all the work for the white man, and he says, your services are no longer required. I'm in charge now. Get back to the library, secretary. Go. I don't know. Organize the pencils. Go refill the water cooler because Daddy's back and I'm running things. And then he comes back to her and he goes, oh, by the way, do you know what a vortex is? What are your theories on how vortex? He's like trying to steal credit from her without actually directly asking from her, right? He's like, this always happens. Like I work at game company. This always happens. Oh, hey, artists and programmers. Hey, game design. Hey, any of you low-level game designers, you have any good ideas for a game? What do you think about this? And then they'll take your idea and then they sell it as theirs and they make millions of dollars, right? Oh, hey, how can we update this? Guess what, board? I the white CEO, I the tech lead, I the professional top engineer who is a mediocre clown who takes credit for all the entry-level women. I just came up with this great idea that I just stole from somebody, trying to fish it out of them in the grunt level, right? The grunt level of this office cubicle farm. And this is my idea that I definitely just came up with, even though I fucking stole it. Like when he's doing that to Lucien, that's just how this all shit works. And Neil Gaiman is such a fucking clown that he can't even figure out that that's embarrassingly, horrifyingly true about how stuff works. That probably is also how he got a lot of where he is. Anyways, with millions and millions of dollars making Netflix original series. I know for a fact there are a lot of white men writers who use lots of other people to do a lot of unpaid labor, and some of them not even white. And there's somebody who might have made a show somebody who made a show that I like the show a lot, talk about it a lot, but there's a dude running a show, he's not even white, and he's taking credit for what a lot of women have been doing, and it might end with dogs. Anyways, you should maybe stop white manning out. I don't want to throw too much shit because I do like the show a lot, and I think this guy can. I think he can write his ways, but you gotta give the credit where the credit is due. I have a whole fucking song about that. Anyways, point is, this is not and so he gets angry, he gets sad, and he can throw his emotions all over the place with no consequences. He can just kill people and nothing happens. He can just punch and Sandman can very goth, skinny, pastily. Hulk smash. He could just Hulk smash people out of existence. Galt, you did something I don't like. You didn't obey what I said to do, even though I didn't tell you what it was, because I don't know how to communicate my fucking shit properly. Well, I'm gonna smash you out of existence, and then nothing happens. No consequences, right? But that's how it is in the patriarchal world, especially in the Western world. But any patriarchal reality, men can get angry. They can hurt people. They can damage people and things. Run their companies to the ground, abuse their wives, abuse their families, and nothing happens. And they're used to doing that. And that's why when there's a little pushback, hey, maybe you can't just be angry at people all the time and irrationally throwing your tantrums. Sad, angry, whatever, abusing people. And then they freak the fuck out and they're like, oh my God, feminism is destroying the world. No, it's just there's 1% of the pushback that needs to happen is happening to equalize things. And you're fucking losing your shit because you're scared that they might equalize more, It's a lot like the colonialism thing. It's holy shit, there's a black person in my Star Wars. It's the end of the world because wokeness is going to make the planet run by black people and they're going to put us all white people in chains. It's no, it's just 1% of the equalization that needs to happen, Oh my goodness, there's indigenous people. The land back is all a corporate scam to make billionaires out of Indians. right? A bunch of white people, patriot socialists, making YouTube videos and money, lots of money out of this bullshit. It's like, no, this is just like, we're just trying not to like be constantly wiped out and dying culturally and literally and being plundered to shit. And we're trying to save the planet environmentally. But just 1%, just a tiny little, the softest little kid glove with cotton balls on, patty cake level pushback. It's like, just, can you stop? Maybe just like take your knee off my neck a little bit. Just like maybe like stop literally like dumping jet fuel all over our fucking drinking water, including your own. Oh my God, that's the end of the world. Because that means like maybe things that the real fear is maybe my massive, ridiculous, just disgusting, completely screwed up, exorbitant privilege might go away. That's what the real fear is. Not really that they're going to be dominated. Women are going to run the world and men are all going to be in chains or something. Black people are going to take over the planet and there's going to be white genocide. That's a fascist narrative. But the fascists in somewhere they actually know that's not what's going to happen. They just want to maintain exorbitant privilege and power and keep being spoiled, angry, sad, abusive fucking man babies. And then they're scared of what the world will look like if that ever changed. But the good news is that like the world is going to change whether they can like it or not. So I mean, I guess that's why I'm doing this stream, because I want people to like, it's like trying to be like, hey, other dudes or people that have been social, even if you're not even dudes, not necessarily white dudes, just dudes, or people that were socialized as dudes. It might not even not be dudes. It could be women that are just like, thinking that they can get a cut from the patriarchy, like the upper crust women in The Handmaid's Tale, or like Hillary Clinton. If I want to keep the patriarchal corporate world, I want to be the one in the corner office, like acting the dude, like, right, benefiting from patriarchal capitalism, or like Kamala Harris, right, who fucking showed up here. She's a black woman who mass incarcerated her own people, and is there for the, she's all there for the racist capitalist patriarchy, as long as she gets a cut. So it's not like it's just the white dudes that are gonna benefit from that. There are other people that like figure out that's where like it's not the wokeness. It's not like having equality for LGBTQ plus people, women. I think Ben Norton made an important point about this, which is against the patriot socialists, was that it's not that woke. It's not like advocating for the rights of marginalized people. That's the problem, right? But that's the way that the right and the Tucker Carlsons and all the Gamer Gates and all the rights of the Western world, all of the all of the these types, the quartering types, I don't know, all those people. Their whole thing is, the problem is there's too many woke people. There's too many people that are like, but it's not really that. It's the problem is the capitalist imperialists cynically, utilizing that, like putting an LGBTQ plus sticker on the side of your Tomahawk missiles, or Nancy Pelosi wearing a kente cloth, cynically utilizing people's desire to do the actually right thing in order to, get them to unknowingly support horrible imperial, horrible policies that are actually hurting those people, right? Like black people wanting to fund the police, that's really what you want. We're gonna make your streets safe. LGBTQ plus rights can be furthered by having more gay and trans people work for the military industrial complex, right? And Lockheed Martin. Like, no, that's actually not going to help. That's actually going to destroy everything. And again, it's like a handful of people. So, but that's not like to say that LGBTQ plus people should not have equality, right? But that's anyway. So you see, anyway. So let me take Salmon's picture off. This is not about Salmon, but it really does apply to both. And importantly, the last thing I want to say about Salmon was that Lucien actually says, right? Lucien actually says, he almost apologized for killing one of his own employees and discrediting all of my century of labor. He almost apologized. Almost, right? It's like Elon almost apologized for beating the crap out of his workers and breaking their legs with the police when they tried to unionize. He almost apologized to the women that he abused and impregnated and then abused some more, right? He almost, it's like, and then everybody's applauding, like, oh my God, He's a changed man, right? Our great CEO, white British king, right? Who used a lot of Farrah Fawcett hairspray, right? Second string Edward fucking Cullen, king, is a changed man. Like, changed how? Like, how much? What? I mean, he gets like lots of cookies for that. Like, he's like, so good, such a good job you've done. It's like, has he actually? Anyways, but it's like, what's important is that readers of the Sandman and the writer of the Sandman, Neil Gaiman, thought that was really moving. That's a lot of change, man. You know, that's the interesting part, actually. You didn't change shit. I mean, but it's not really Neil's fault. That is the way of the Western patriarchal world and upper class readers of books like that. And middle, upper class. Well, there's not a lot of them now. They're all falling through the cracks, or they're losing their place. But that is the way of the world, though. If the CEO of your corporation were to just almost apologize to his secretary that he's cheating on his wife with for, like, I don't know, being abusive for the last 2 years, that would be like, oh my God, you're so good, man. Wow, you're doing such a good job. Oh, look at him, he's doing so good. Anyways, but you know, I'm here to tell you, as somebody that's like at least dude passing, that you're full of shit, and that's not sufficient. That's nothing. So anyways, let's talk about anti-wokeist Tucker Tate, Andrew Tate, the sexist pickup artist, horrible person. Tucker Carlson, of course, the leader of the West, the United States' commander in chief of the so-called left. All the patriot socialists, including I think there's a back and forth. I want to quickly go to this. Speaking of the patriot socialists, Hinkle, some kind of clown named Jackson Hinkle or something. He had a back and forth with what's his name? He had a back and forth with Ben Norton. Ben Norton is an actual journalist, you know, trying to do his best. No, where's the one that what's his face? The Ben like he made a video about this. Like, Ben does a lot of he does multipolarista reporting. He's talking about, you know, win-win cooperation across the world, stopping global plunder and imperialism and colonialism. And where's the one that Ben? There it is. Yeah. So, you know, it's like important work, but that's why Jackson Hinkle is talking about, because Jackson Hinkle is a sexist pickup artist chud pretending to be a leftist, like most of the Western white man, and not just white man, Western left, who's being paid by, you know, imperialist interests to stop the win-win multipolar world, which is what Ben's trying his best to do. I mean, from what I can gather. And so that's why people like that and all the patriot socialists, Peter Coffins of the world, and I don't know, all these other people. I'm gonna just say the names because I don't fucking care at this point. It's sad to see Ben Norton attack only people supporting challenge the deep state and those of us who support them. He's used on lockdowns, mandates, jabs, trucker. So the problem is that the fascist trucker rally is being oppressed. That's the problem. The there's too many lockdowns and mandates and jabs. There's lots of people that are really mad, especially men, getting really mad about lockdowns, mandates, especially white men, jabs, and truckers, and the FBI are oppressing our great and fearless leader Donald Trump, who's going to liberate America and bring about socialism, right? That's the kind of people that fascists like Jackson Hinkle are down for, right? I mean, it's like, there's no consistency there, but that's normal because that's National Socialism, right? That's patriot socialism, which is Nazism spelled differently, and that's 1870s America, where there was a white man's union, and then they had a Chinese Exclusion Act, and they lynched a lot of non-white people. So this is just like normal Western destruction of socialism by keeping the racial and gender divides in the working class with a bunch of white working class and white capital collaboration. This is like I've done entire streams about this, but that's who these people are. And so but then it says, you know, laughing at these infantile smears from a genocidal flag waving chauvinist grifter who constantly praises fascist U.S. politicians. I mean, yeah, like he's praising And Tucker, he's good friends with that guy. Glenn Greenwald, unfortunately, is like going deep on that end of the spectrum, because there's a lot of people who like were journalists as a career, and when doing something that I was somewhat left is going to help your journalistic career and making hundreds of thousands of dollars and jet setting around the globe, as a bourgeois pretending to be actual left journalist, from a wealthy family a lot of the time. When it benefits those journalists to veer into the right wing populist camp, because the Democrat is, because it seems convenient right now. Then you can tell who's the real journalist, and then you can also tell who's the real left, because they're all like going full fucking patriot socialist or right wing populist, right wing. It's just like the umpteenth time that the Western world will fail to get the end of capitalism because they back. Right, I feel like a broken record. I don't want to go over that again. They back the white men against non-white people and women in their organizing, right? And they cut a deal. That's what the fucking 50s was, right? It was white John Wayne and Clint Eastwood's got a good deal, shooting at Indians, stomping on the black help in the 50s. That's why it's a civil rights movement. And the women were Stepford wives again, right? It's just the same thing. But that's like the anyway. So. Which is why I always say and me and Luna and all of the people that come on our panels always say you have to have you have to dismantle all of the systems of oppression all at the same time. You can't just like talk about class and talk about class. Because if you just talk about class, and you leave the racism and the sexism and the anti-LGBT class, and you get fascism, you get the white nationalism, you get the Nazi motherfucking party, you get Mussolini, who he got a good wage and a retirement package for white men. And, anyways, laughing at these infantile smears. So you should laugh at these infantile smears of genocidal flag-waving chauvinists. This guy knows nothing about politics outside of his colonial U.S. borders that he loves, and he endorsed a fascist Colombian millionaire who praised Hitler. I mean, it's laughably easy to debunk these people, but the thing is, most of the West is littered with men and people like that who can't be arsed to do 5 seconds of research, right? It's kind of like debunking even the Xinjiang stuff, but it works because nobody can be arsed to look up who the fuck Adrian Zenz is. And if they do, they don't want to lose their job, because if they talk about it, all the people around them are still too lazy to do 5 seconds of research and look up basic stuff that you can look up, right? But nobody cares, and that's why people like this clown can get away with this bullshit. In the Western world, anyway. I mean, like, there's a socialist world that you can't get away with that in the global South, actual socialist countries, because they don't. People are smarter than that. They're not. You can't just say something and it sounds nice and it validates their privilege, and then they agree with it and they don't look it up, right? But always do comprehend, like, dialectically think, where is the source you're saying. Do a comprehensive, wide, and historical research into a topic before you speak on it. But the West doesn't have none of these qualms, especially white men. They just open their mouth. You put something on NPR, the New York Times, Fox News, the right, center, and left, and they'll just oh, that sounds good, and it validates me and it makes me feel smart and like I can keep my first world male white privilege, and then they'll just repeat it. And if it doesn't sound like that, they'll say it has bad writing, like She-Hulk. This plot was inconsistent, like Prey. A woman can't, women sporting green, it's really pissing them off, but it's not really the green. It's just She-Hulk and Naru, the indigenous woman who beats the Predator in Prey, happen to be wearing a lot of green a lot of the time. Predator blood in the case of Prey. But that doesn't validate who they are. And so all the logical inconsistencies, right? I think I made that point. Most Marvel movies, like, in Predator, Jesse Ventura is carrying a fucking, anti-aircraft mounted gun, right? And it's physically impossible for him to be doing that and shooting as much as he is. But nobody comes to question Jesse Ventura. No man could carry that gun and rationally be expected to be fighting with that thing. No matter how many bench presses and how much hydroxychloroquine infused alpha testosteronator pills he washes his testosterone down with, and his steroids. There's no way he could be carrying that gun. Nobody brings up the illogic of comic book movie nonsense and action movie nonsense. Until there's a non-white or non-woman person, then it's all illogical, right? But you see, but until then, they're free to like parrot it as much as they fucking want and call it rationality. But that's another way that white men have been, play with kid gloves for their entire lives, right? Which is they can spout shit and call it the height of thinking, right? Like philosophy. I was just reading an article with Nick Bostrom and the Humanity Institute and the long-termists, these clowns. That are basically like techno eugenicists and they're like space age Nazis. They're like, let's go to space and have colonization so we can have 58 trillion slaves. I'll be the boss of them and call that. Anyways, I don't want to talk about them right now. That's too much to open up right now. But but people can get away with so-called logical thinking, right? And call women emotional when they have an emotional reaction to, I don't know, being sexually harassed and abused. Like, I have emotional reactions, but I don't have, I try to not have I know that I do this because I was socialized as a dude. That's why I know you dudes, because motherfucker, I was socialized at a $20,000 a year private school to be a white man despite not being white enough really to get away with it. So I know exactly what that is. Even the, all the techno singularitarian cyberpunk nerds. I went to those schools. I almost got like a PhD in cognitive computing and neurosurgery. I know who you are. You terrible fucking people, because that's part of me. But you have to acknowledge that that's not acceptable to it's like I try to when I think about all the children that have been crushed and destroyed in the ghettos and all the suffering that goes along that happens to all marginalized people of color, the global South, the people that I almost programmed the Tomahawk missiles and or the high frequency trading algorithms at Goldman Sachs to impoverish and blow up. I think about those people and then I get mad. But it's like, but I'm not, but it's different when you're upset because you're being called on exorbitant privileges that you have, and then you tell women to shut up because they're becoming too emotional. Like my dad even did this to me one time. Not one time, many times. I'm trying to say, Dad, we're illegally occupied and we have to fight for our existence as Native Hawaiians. And there's like, you're being too emotional. You're being too emotional. You're being, Chris, you're not thinking rationally now. And he's the one getting emotional because he knows that I'm right. And he's like, but this is part of anyway, that's a whole big can of worms. But it's like, you're emotional, woman. Whatever you're saying can't be true. Number one, like, people get emotional sometimes. That doesn't invalidate the arguments. Number two, the people that are usually emotional are men when they're losing an argument. Like when they're replying to something that a woman with a PhD in rocket science is saying, and he has like cursory knowledge from popular science and the subreddit for wannabe engineers. And he's like, Elon's rocket, this and this and that, and the tensile strength of this material that he used in his Vassima rock. And then the woman with a PhD is coming in like, well, actually, no, that's not true because this and this and this. Who the hell are you? Who the heck are you? Do you even know what a carbon nanotubule is? And she's like, yeah, I invented them. He's like, shut up, woman. But that's like the whole point of She-Hulk, which is like, you have to understand how fucking infuriating that is to be able to be told. I don't even know what that is because I've never been a woman and I've been told to shut the fuck up. Because I've been a non-white person with non-Columbia, non-NYU, non-Harvard degrees being told to shut up at my own job as a STEM teacher. So I know that part, but I can't. It's a whole nother thing to just be told to shut the fuck up, and it invalidate all of your decades of invalidates all your decades of work, like Lucien, like all your decades and decades and decades of work, so that some asshat who cried for a century can take all the credit for you. That's the whole thing, That's the man babyishness of the patriarchal world is also what's stopping men from understanding the point of just the first episode of She-Hulk. It's not even the whole first episode, but it's a major point, which is an important point. It's an incredibly important point, right? What is that point? It's like, and because they can't listen to women, when the women are saying the thing that they really need to understand so that they can like move forward in this world, do you want socialism? You're never going to get it if you have this. And if Starbucks women, Starbucks workers, service industry workers, academics, nurses, teachers, Netflix, software engineers, and women-coded jobs, basically what it is, right, are deemed as non-working class jobs. Like, you're never going to get what you actually say you want. I mean, the thing is, a lot of the patriot socialists, all these so-called anti-woke socialist leftist people, so-called journalists, or former journalists, now they're just right-wing grifting, or they always were. You're never going to get the socialism and the economic equality and the living wages that you want, even if you do, if you cannot like get this basic stuff, and it is basic stuff. It should be fucking kindergarten stuff, but nobody gets past kindergarten in patriarchy. You get to be a child forever. That's why you're a man baby. You're still in diapers. So that's why I'm trying to help people. And I'm not saying that I'm like the fucking genius at this. I mean, I know this is basic stuff. It's not. But it took me like 38 years to really understand this stuff. So I'm like way too stupid and late to this game myself. So it's not like, that's why I'm saying it's so important. Because like, if I, a like non-white person who is like trying to be the best that I could possibly be, and doing all the things that I try to be as like true to the truth and base as possible, took fucking forever to get it. I know it's going to take a lot of people a lot longer to get it. So I'm trying to help people get it sooner so that you can deal with these problems sooner. Because you're never going to get environmental, social, economic equality in the places that cannot deal with this kind of shit. You cannot deal with your patriarchy. You're never going to get your socialism. I'm sorry. So, but what is the truth, right? Let me go back to find that truth that she's trying to say. Here's the thing, Bruce, right? This is just one scene, right? No, this is the most important scene, but this is like one scene out of many that happened throughout the first episode, where Jen is like, here's the thing, Bruce, I'm great at controlling my anger. I do it all the time. When I'm catcalled in the street, because let me back up a little. So Bruce is there. They're doing this meditation, deep meditation. Bruce, the Hulk, right? Not sad boy. The Joe Rogan, angry man. This one. He is over there trying to teach her how to do deep, dialectical meditation. Maybe you should do some dialectical materialism and some like Marx. Do some left thinking. But anyways, he's doing dialectical meditation. And she's like going along with it. Okay, I will meditate. Because he's telling her, of course, the thing is, like, if people would actually like watch episode 1, by people I mean dudes, would just watch episode 1 and like look at what Mark Ruffalo's character is actually doing. Well, look at what, because Bruce actually is not. I mean, he's a kind of dude-headed, oafish, like, he can be kind of a dick, but he actually does. He does markedly better than Sandman. He's markedly better than Elon. Like, he is mansplaining, right? He is telling her things, right? That's one of the things, right? It's infuriating to be constantly told that you don't that you to be explained to by just a basic, like a third grade level understanding guy, when something that you have a PhD in, right? And having to be explained to, because it's assumed that because you're a woman, you cannot understand such a thing as advanced mathematics or, a biotechnology or whatever the topic is. And you have to be explained to. And most women will I shouldn't say what, but many women are expected to put up with that shit, right? And just like cater to his ego, because it could be dangerous for you, because he could get angry and then attack you or do something abusive at you. Right? If you don't cater to his ego of being able to mansplain to you something that you already know, that's it. If a man is explaining to another man something that he already knows, he'll just be like, "Dude, I already know that," right? And it's like, well, and then it's like, and then they might get angry at each other, but dudes can express their anger because you don't have to control your anger. You just get angry. And also, it's like, it's more sensitive when it's a woman because there's something the male ego comes in and goes, this woman can't show me up. I'm embarrassed. Now I'm getting really angry, right? It's like it's another, it's a whole other thing when so you see this fucked up dynamic where it's like the women have to just constantly tolerate, they have to tolerate and pretend to not know things. They have to intentionally dumb themselves down way beyond where they're at, and in order to just exist in a patriarchal world, which is it's all just even from an efficiency standpoint. Look, it's incredibly inefficient because then lots of people who could be doing a lot more things, right, in the STEM fields that all the men like Sam Harris and all these people, all of the men's right activists like Elon Musk, right, are upset that women are doing science and tech jobs in California and we have to get them out of our engineering departments. It's like, if they're good at their job, if you actually believe in meritocracy, like a lot of these clowns say that they do, if you actually believe that the best person should get the job, why don't you just let them all get the jobs, and why don't you just get better at your jobs? But it's kind of like the U.S. going, we're not going to actually compete with China and make better products. We're just going to try to start wars in the Asia Pacific region and blow everything up and throw tantrums, rather than just like make better stuff. We're just going to make nothing and blow up Yemen and take all of their fossil fuel, which is what U.S. and France are doing right now. So we're not going to like treat other people nicely and produce products and exchange them for equal value in Europe to stop us from freezing and stop going along with the military, just U.S. imperialism in the NATO. We're going to just blow other people. We're going to throw another, we're going to Hulk smash other countries and take all their shit and especially non-white, countries in the Middle East and Africa. We're just going to smash them instead. Anyways, I'm off my topic though. So my point is that like she is like incredibly tolerant of She-Hulk is incredibly tolerant of Bruce's bullshit. Not his bullshit. I shouldn't say that. He's just like trying to help her. Like he's actually like way better than the average dude. He's just like he's honestly just trying to help his cousin. Bruce is trying to help Jen with this new situation in the way that he thinks is the best thing to do. Oh no, he tries to stop her from getting any of his blood in her blood. He says, no, get away from me. I'm bleeding. Gotta get away from me. Right? And it's too late though. It's too late. So he does like try to stop her from becoming She-Hulk, right? When he realizes that it's happened, he's like, oh no. And she hulks out, she disappears. She ends up at a club. Anyway, there's a whole scene where like she's ripped up and torn dress. All the women in the women's bathroom like come and try to help her. Like, oh my God, like who did this to you? Do you need a phone? Do you need clothes? Do you need help? It's like because the women all know like she might have just suffered the rage of some man's tantrum that will not be dealt with, right? Because less than 1% of men are even like a tiny fraction of men are ever even investigated for rape, and the police do a lot of domestic abuse, sexual violence, and raping. So it's not like, that's a place, especially in places like the United States, in the Western capitalist patriarchal world. It's different in some other places. Johnny Depp just won a case and spent millions and millions of dollars trying to bury lots and lots and lots and lots of terrible things that he did to women, which has all come out accidentally. But anyways, the point is that like the women are all trying to help in this one scene where let me see if I can get that She-Hulk bathroom scene. They're all like trying to help her because men won't help her, right? A lot of men like to say that they say that they're going to help women. They say that they're valiant, they care about women, but they don't. There's lots of men who go like they know like if it's their daughter. Right, they're like, hey, you can't go by guys because all men they just want sex and they're gonna be a predator. And just watch out, don't wear this and don't wear that but those kind of men they're not gonna address the patriarchy because they want secret. It's kind of like one of those things where like I want my personal wife and my personal woman to be safe, but I want to keep benefiting from exploiting their labor, being able to catcall and sexually abuse women and kind of get with whoever I want and have power over them. So I'm going to maintain this patriarchy in place, even though it's going to hurt my daughter because she's going to get catcalled, sexually harassed, and possibly raped in her life. But I don't care because I'm a selfish piece of shit. That's what that says. So all the dudes who are not there to dismantle patriarchy are, I'm sorry, you're you're fucking terrible, man. Period. And there's a lot of them. They even say, "Oh yeah, I care about women's rights, but you know, I kind of like having my personal fucking worker that makes money and also feeds and houses and cares and takes care of all my shit for me and cooks and cleans, you know." And they're not ready to give that up. They're not ready to give that. In fact, you know, the entire United States is banning abortion and trying to make women property again, you know, and reinstate segregation on top of that. But the anti-women stuff is it's just the West is fucking showing its fucking face. I mean, I say the West because there are full abortion rights in places like America's number one enemy, China, has abortion. They have gender affirming care for trans kids that's free. You can't even get any care, even if you're a straight cis white guy in the United States. They have fucking free care for the trans children. Anyway, so you know, not everyone is going that direction. Actually, that's 4 times as many people in the one country as the largest largest, most powerful white country. There's 4 times as many people. So this is not like, not to say that they don't have problems there, and they know the difference is they know they have to constantly address these problems. Where the United States is going, we don't have problems. The problem is there's too much wokeness. They're not even able of acknowledging that there is a problem. The U.S. is, and so is Europe. They don't even see a problem with blaming gay people for monkeypox, like they already did with AIDS. They don't even see a problem with that. It's just like totally fine and normal. All parties, Democrat, Republican, it's the gay virus. It's nightmarish. Anyway, but you know, and so you know, to be honest, like I didn't really get this stuff till like you know, I've you know, it's like I had like inklings of this kind of stuff. But like one other thing was I was watching like a Pink Spots, actually. I remember it was actually a Mexi video. Shout out to Mexi, who also interviewed me for Neofeud, and it was one of the next Mexi videos where it was like women were talking to each other, and Mexi also did an interview with me about land back, Native Hawaiian struggle against U.S. empire, genocide, settler colonization, all that kind of stuff. And this is some kind of video game that has people that are wearing not enough. Anyways, but it was on a Mexi video where women were all talking to each other. Well, women and non-men were talking to each other about their experiences, and then it was only then that I really got, like, Holly had told me some of this stuff. Like this is really dangerous. Like, it's really scary all the time to be in a world where men can hurt you, harm you, beat you, kill you, discredit you, and do all these things. And also, it's really frustrating and upsetting and unfair that this can happen at any time. Sex is like really crap with most dudes. You know, there's like you know, there's men on dating apps, like 63%, like 2/3 of men are on dating apps, and because of healthy relationships, their cis men are unable to find. They're finding a increasing dry spells. You know, there's like wildfires and droughts everywhere, but there's like a drought of men, straight cis men having relationships because of healthy relationships. And it's like, shouldn't it be the quiet part is screaming 100 decibels at you. Cis straight relationships are boring, unhealthy, unfulfilling, orgasmless for one party, abuse factories. That's what cis straight relationships often are in the Western world. That's what they always have been. And that's never been fair. The solution is women have to go back to how they were, right? Make America great again means make patriarchy strong again, right? And it didn't really dawn on a lot of stuff. Like, I'm saying this stuff not because like I'm a fucking genius. I'm gonna write a book and sell it to men. It's called Silver Spook's Jordan Petersonian like guide to how to be a man. I'm not gonna write that book because I don't have the fucking time for that. But I do want like. And also, like, I'm not the expert. I like, this is stuff I only learned very recently. Was like, a lot of us listening to women talk to other women somehow got in that position, you know. Which is why it's like, I thought like, man, that stuff was like really important stuff. Because if I hadn't like listened to that conversation, not the Mexi video, but it was a conversation. It was on the Pink Spots channel. Anyways, I can't remember what it was called. But it was like. This is, and I saw other dudes in the chat. They were like, "Holy shit! I had never even thought about this. Oh my god, I never thought about that. Oh my crap, I never thought about this." You know, and then there's a lot of people that like are capable of figuring this out. You know, they're capable of figuring this. There's a lot of men that are capable of figuring this out. But you know, it's kind of like you can't blame Asians for being afraid to push back in a place that has had a thing called the Chinaman chance, where Asians can be killed at the hands of white men. Speaking of the anger of men, white men can kill an Asian at any time, and it was illegal for them to even testify in court. And still to this day, they're killed willy-nilly with no pushback. And it's hard to tell one of those people, hey, Asian people, you know, you can push back, because if they do push back, well, maybe they just got killed. And they are getting killed in higher rates as they push back. And then still nothing happens. So it's kind of like you can't really blame the people necessarily who are terrified of confronting people who can get away with doing horrible things to you, and who have and do and continue always to do horrible things to you, like men doing horrible things to women. That's what I'm saying. And so you can't really blame them for like not wanting to have these conversations in certain spaces, especially if you're women on YouTube. Oh my God, you're women on the internet. Oh my God, right? It's like, I mean, I have like, you know, as I said, like I'll like, am I identify as like basically like, you know, I'm like he, him / they, them, and I've identified in a femme presenting way on events, and like even that little bit I can, like people are treating me like way differently when I'm appearing a different way. Even when I was performing, I kind of, but it's like, it's a thing that, you know, it's like a thing that I'm mostly presenting dude like in the world. So then I don't have to deal with that most of the time. Right. And so that's, but anyway, my point is that like, maybe a lot of people won't learn who need to learn this stuff by watching She-Hulk, because they're going to be too Hulk raging out to even listen. They'll be like, I'm so mad that Marvel made a show that has female main characters, and I'm gonna fucking lose my shit like I lost it for Phantom Menace, and when Anita Sarkeesian started calling out the male power fantasies in video games. Like, come on, man, this is what that is. But no, I can't hear it. I can't hear it because I don't want a world with equality. I want to be able to be a dude and have everybody be there for my protagonism. You know, I want to be the overpowered protagonist that can do whatever I want to every little town of elves and gnomes. I want to do whatever I want to every village in this RPG. And I want everyone to be sexy the way that I said. And everyone's bodies and lands and worlds and cultures is for me. And that's the way I want it. I don't want things to change and have to coexist in worlds where there's games that have different bodies and different genders. And that's woke. And that's the you know, that was the red pill, right? That was the co-opted red pill by the right. That is the feminist cancer that is killing this gaming industry, and by extension Western civilization, and by extension everything, because everything is the West. No, it's only 4% of the world. You know, and so like a lot of people are not going to be able to hear that message, but I'm just here to say that it's a very important message, you know. I keep saying I want to tell you what the message is, but that's why you see, I'm trying to sell you something. That's why I keep hiding the message. No, the message is right there. You can just read it. But it's like, anyways, back to what Bruce is trying his best, right? You know, where did I put that fucking thing? Yeah, there. You know, so Bruce is trying to be like, trying to help. He's trying to help his cousin Jen to learn how to be a Hulk, to help her, right? The thing is, when dudes are mansplaining stuff to women that they know, a lot of them, you know, maybe they legitimately think that, you know, a lot of them do think that they're trying to help the woman understand a thing that the woman already understands, right? Now, like, when you're explaining something to somebody, it's not always the case that you don't always know, right, what the other person knows. So you might be telling somebody something, you know, you might be on the street talking to somebody on the street, and you go like, oh, hey, did you know, like, you know, if I was just on the street, somebody, oh yeah, did you know that there's like there's these headsets you can put on, and then you can like play video games, and it's like you're in another world. And I'm a video game maker, and I know what I'm a science fiction and cyberpunk writer, so I know what virtual reality is. But if you just saw me somewhere on the street or in a call or something or somewhere, you might not know that, right? And so I'm not going to be mad that you're explaining what virtual reality is to somebody who writes entire universes full of that, because like you don't know. But like, it's like, but to assume specifically, when if it's a woman or a femme presenting person, and then you assume immediately that they don't know all these things, that's another level of it. And then also and because that's a major problem, right? And then the other thing is when you're explaining it, and then the person, the woman is going, hey, I kind of know that kind of stuff, and then you're like, no, you can't know that stuff. You can't know that stuff because, and it's like, because why? Well, because you have what? You have long hair and boobs. What? Like, think about that, right? And so, like, anyways, but Bruce, in that first part, he is legitimately trying to. He thinks, I think inside of himself, he's like, I'm trying to help her, learn how to use the power, how to deal with being a Hulk, because I've been doing it for 15 years. I have my entire, as I said, here he has his entire curriculum. This is how you control anger. And like some stuff she doesn't know. Like Jen doesn't know things that it probably is helpful to know. Hey, don't move into rooms with high ceilings. I mean, no, with low ceilings, because that would be unfortunate. You're gonna smash your apartment up if you Hulk out. Wear Spandex. I mean, stuff that like you might have been able to figure out, but it's good to like know it ahead of time so that you don't have to deal with unfortunate accidental destruction. But then there's other stuff, right? Like when you're a Hulk, you have to be able to control your anger. That's the point of this scene, right? You have to be able to control your anger, because if you don't control your anger, you can randomly Hulk out, and that's terrible. Oh, in the very beginning, he's all like, "Okay, we have to see what sets you off," right? And that's the scene where he's like, he puts her in he puts her in the She-Hulk scene with the blades spinning. It's like a death trap where let's see, I don't know if this is, it's like a She-Hulk Blade crossover. That is that. It's Wesley Snipes Blade vampire She-Hulk. I wish Blade would come out soon so I can go like do a video about Blade. Anyways, so in She-Hulk there's that scene where Bruce puts her in a room with power saw blades closing in like Star Wars Episode 4 style. Like in the garbage disposal where like Luke and Leia and Han are all getting smashed. But except it's worse than that, because there's like power saw blades coming in like this, right? That look like that. And he's like, I have to see what sets you off. We have to see if when and how you Hulk out, like a science experiment, right? And she's like, what are you doing? Hey, you're gonna get me killed. This is nuts. What are you doing, right? Blades scene. Let's see if I can get the scene. Okay. He's like you're gonna get me smashed to bits. And anyway, I'm not gonna find it. And so he's like, oh no, this is just a test. This is just an experiment, and it has to be actual. You have to actually almost be in life-threatening danger. And the thing is like so she's like, yeah, and she's there. I think Holly brought it, like she's like trying to negotiate, because that's what you often have to do as women. You just pleading, please stop. You're not like she's still not getting angry. And also she's like smashing and then eventually, she smashes the you probably see in the trailer, she smashes the blades, and then she breaks the door and throws it, because now she's kind of pissed off, like, what the fuck did you almost get me? Why did you feel like you had to do that? But anyways, so he's testing and seeing what's up, and then he finds out, oh wait, when she changes, she doesn't have a alter ego. She doesn't like when the OG Hulks out, right? He loses his mental faculties. He is just a force of nature. He can't think straight, right? And then Bruce has his smart Hulk, right? With his 7 PhDs in the She-Hulk show, but that's taken him decades, right? 15 years to learn how to deal with his anger, right? Like anger issues complicated by alcoholism and all kind of stuff. But Bruce has has only been able to begin. It's almost like it's a comic book movie, but you can think of it like metaphorically, like he's finally been able to kind of start to control his anger, right? And So he doesn't have like two totally different personalities. But anyways, but Bruce's character is like he's shocked because like, well, when I helped out, I was always a totally different person. There's like two people living in my head. There was another guy. My whole entire shtick, my whole entire the plot points for most of my movies and shows revolve around me unable to deal with and having to constantly fight this as the Dr. Jekyll, this other Mr. Hyde alternate ego living in my head called the Hulk, you know. And so when She-Hulk turns, she instantly when She-Hulk turns, she's still Jen. She's only one person, right? And so and part of it is like, you know, that's important because what you find out later is that like she has control over anger, right? She doesn't have to learn how to have control over anger, even though Bruce has been spending like days, right, many hours and days trying to teach her how to control her anger, right? And so the reason why I'm going through all of that is because that entire time, right, when Bruce is over there teaching her, God damn it, where did I lost it? You know, Bruce is over there teaching her meditation techniques, talking to her about trying to control her anger. This is how you control anger. When you know, like that whole time she has been pretending to not know how to control her anger, to be nice to her cousin who she loves and she enjoys his company, right? And just to indulge him. Like people say, oh, She-Hulk is so mean to Bruce and this it validates Bruce's experience. She is actually like being incredibly nice to him, but this is like everything else, right? Like the Sandman. Oh, you almost apologize for centuries of wrongs and bad stuff. Oh, I mean, like, you know, if it was another dude, it would have been like, fuck you, get out of here the first second you did something wrong, you know? But the women have to take the abuse and take it. And oh, you might apologize. Oh, you're so good, honey. Oh my God, that's all, you know. And like, you know, when I realized that that's part of a patriarchal world, I'm like, that's so fucking unfair, you know. But that's also part of why, like, there's lots of people who are not in relationships who are dudes, and you know, me and Holly are, you know. And that's not the only reason, but like, you know, that I was like, you know, I even told like Holly, like, don't give it if you know for some reason, like, I don't know, something happens to me, like, don't give it any fucking dudes, because you know, there's lots of other non-men options. I'm looking at all the dudes that even I've worked with in the game industry. I mean, lots of other people that, you know, it's unfortunately, I wish that dudes would be less patriarchal and understand the lesson of She-Hulk, so that they would not be trying to re-enslave women into cooking and cleaning and sex slaves, and would rather treat women as equals, right? Instead of just treating women as equals. But the reality is, most men who still identify as men would like to re-enslave women, ban abortion, and put them back into shackles. And so it's like, and women and people who are attracted to dudes for whatever sad, sorry reason should not lower your standards for that bullshit. And I'm saying that like as you know, somebody that's like dude socialized and everything. Do not lower your standards. Demand equality. Period. Not just for yourself, for them. Don't let little man babies who have been that way for I don't know how many centuries and thousands of years in the West, certainly. We're all of, not just there, everywhere. Do not allow those people to continue to be whiny little children at 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, or 60 years, 7 years, or whatever age they are. Because that is not enabling the bullshit. Is not conducive to a world in which a better world for you. And it really, at the end of the day, it's not a better world for them. Because capitalism and patriarchy does hurt dudes too, because then they can't be full human beings. But they need to, in order for them to grow up, they need to be actually treated with not kid gloves anymore. And, you know, so it's, I mean, that's not your fault that you're treated. But again, it's like, can you be blamed for not confronting dudes with their bullshit because it's dangerous and it's threatening and you could lose your job, and you know you can't really. But it's also like it is. So that's why I'm saying it is time for dudes to also expect from other dudes to treat women as equals, because, well, number one, you're never gonna get fucking laid ever again. So just fucking die with blue balls. That doesn't exist. Number two, you're never gonna end capitalism, because patriarchy is one of the vectors which capitalism is maintained. That's what's happening with Tucker Carlson and the Patriot Socialists and all on Infrahaz and all these clowns right now. So even if you really want that socialism, you're gonna have to treat women as equals. You're gonna have to stop complaining about wokeness and women in your video games. And can we get socialism with women and non-men and people of color cooking in restaurants for me while I sit at home and do nothing? No, you're not. So get over it. Anyway, so that's for I know that, like, only, not maybe a few hundred people. The last video got 300 views. Not everybody's gonna see this and hear this stream. I know that, but I want to encourage other dudes to encourage other dudes to encourage other dudes to grow the fuck up, because there's not enough doing that. Like Jordan Peterson, all the grifters are out here to enable dudes like Jordan Peterson, like Tucker Carlson, like all of your favorite YouTube personalities that make all the money, like the Quartering, are here, like Tim Pool, right? Like all of your thought leaders, academic, YouTube and otherwise, Elon Musk, are here with his men right activism. All the dudes are here to enable other dudes and make money selling their ideology of enabling other dudes to get mad at women as a solution to dealing with all of their problems. And there's not nearly enough that are actually saying what they actually need to be doing. I'm trying to even think of one. I'm like drawing blanks right now. I'm like, I mean, at minimum, I put Ben Norton up there, so at least Ben Norton is like, no, it's called, let's just look a little, because I think Ben Norton identifies as a dude, right? I'm pretty sure, I can't say for sure, but he's presenting that way. You have to deal with, settler colonialism is a problem, white supremacy is a problem, and he had more than that. I can't remember. He had made a whole nother thread, but it's basically like, anti wokeness is not the problem, right? It's like, we have to deal with decolonization, patriarchal structures, misogyny, anti-LGBTQ structures, to deal, because they need to be dealt with because they're unjust. And if we want to actually have an end to capitalism and destructive forces, we have to do those things. So anyway, that's just one person off the top of my head. But it's like there are not nearly enough. And even from the perspective of the left, even from the perspective of, I guess, like, American Johnson, right? There's at least somebody who's like not here to stand some toxic masculinity. I mean, American Johnson does not compete with Luna Oy, right? I mean, you can't be married to a Vietnamese woman unless you can deal with equality of women. Because if you can't, the Vietnamese woman will fuck you up big time. I know Luna will fucking take a grenade and an AK-47 and just like not kill him, just like kick his ass with the butt of the gun. But there's not enough of that, and you're never gonna get the change that you want if we can't deal with that stuff. And it's gonna harm women, and it's gonna harm men who allow to continue the toxic behavior, right, and not grow up. Because that's the thing, right? It's kind of like that. It's like one of the indigenous teachings, right? We need individuals to be strong, competent individuals in themselves, and then a community of individuals together, and then perpetuate that through time, right? It's like the Maslow's pyramid, which was, again, a white dude plagiarizing indigenous wisdom, right? Kind of like white men plagiarizing black women's mathematics and engineering at NASA, right? But if the dudes cannot be can be actualized, fully grown, full human beings, which they're as long as they're man babies, as long as you have half of the population being man babies crying about women and unable to do their half of the work, right? You're never going to get the socialism, because you're going to have this, you're never going to get the community. You have half the community doing all this stuff being dragged down by the other half of the man half of the community, right? That's not a whole community, right? That's why indigenous societies, just generally like Native Hawaiians, certainly had gender equality, and often the women and trans people were especially honored in those societies, And it's not just because like, oh, we just like honoring Two Spirit and Mahu people and women just because we're woke, right? No, it's like, number one, it's because it's the right thing to do. Number two, you can't have a functioning, healed, cohesive community if you have half of the people not, meeting the first level of it was the Blackfoot teaching, right? It was like individual, Blackfoot, wisdom teaching. I think it's like a TP shit, right? The Blackfoot wisdom that inspired Maslow's hierarchy. Let me just get so at the bottom, do you have a picture of it? Yeah. So at the bottom is self-actualization, right? The bottom is self-actualization. So it means just being competent and full human being in yourself. If you are a rage monster half the time, and then you're a crying tantrum sad boy Sandman the other half of the time, you are not self-actualized. You are man baby, right? So that's what that means, right? It's like full, like the example is with the corn and the squash and the beans. If all three together, if the corn does not grow tall, the bean can't wrap around it. I was actually talking to our kids earlier. We're talking about how can we have a tall, straight growing plant to help for we have a huge food ground growing in the front that used to be a lawn. We've decolonized our lawn. We've decolonized our white capitalist lawn very well. We're going to do even more than that. But we're talking about we need something that grows straight so that the other spiraling, circumambulating plants can grow around that, right? Like similar to the corn. I was thinking about kind of using a similar strategy to the Three Sisters. But if the corn plant goes, I'm not going to grow tall, I'm just going to just grow sideways and fall over, right? Then the other plants can't work together with the corn plant. So it's another example of each part of the community has to do its part, otherwise the community fails, right? And so that's another very important lesson for anyway, so that's another reason why it's not just for the women's sake that men have to grow up and treat people as equals, not necessarily become an adult, obviously. They have to be expected to do fully their equal part. They have to fully be expected to treat other people with actual equality, right? And that's not just for women. That's also for the men to self-actualize, and that's also for the community to actualize, to collectively be a strong community. That's also for perpetuation, to perpetuate the culture. I would argue that that's the way that fascism, capitalism, and colonialism and oligarchy perpetuate itself, right? Like I said, is because the white man section of the society are allowed to just get angry, and the Hulk, like in a certain sense, you could look at Nazi Germany was white men hulking out, becoming a rage monster. It's called white man anger monster, and then taking out on Jewish people. You could have got to socialism, but you just decided to all throw tantrums and get mad at women have too many rights, Jewish people have all the money, and we're gonna get mad and just kill stuff and not think and not be grown-ups, right? So again, that cannot be the toxic masculinity can never be allowed to fester. Like wise indigenous and world societies and wise ancient civilizations knew this, That's part of what the myths of Pele, Dear Woman, even like in Odysseus, it's kind of like part of the lesson is like these people who end up doing a lot of this violence, they can't be allowed back into society. Not to say that they were a great society, they were very violent societies in a lot of ways, and the fucked up proto-fascists, but even they recognize that you cannot allow this toxic masculine uncontrolled anger, uncontrolled, undealt with man baby situation to fester, because it's going to be a real problem for your society. Unless you want a society where a handful of men of the majority skin color, unless you want a handful of white men to have lots and lots of money, and then lots of other uncontrolled, uneducated, tantruming men beat everyone else up for you. It's called the history of the West, actually. Then you can let it fester as much as you want and let people be violent and beat people up and kill each other, and nobody wash their ass, and everybody just have all the freedoms. It's another way to look at it. And then then you have a very broken, unhealed society, completely out of balance, right? With people just like free to beat and throw their tantrums and slaughter people left and right, and a handful of people will manipulate that anger and rage and send them off into other countries and get them up and get people killed and take all the resources and bring it back. It's called empire. So so even for imperialism, right? This stuff is important, right? You notice countries that have strong equality across of genders and for all peoples, right? They tend to not be the imperialist countries. Even very large, very economically strong countries, but they're not the ones that are doing the imperialism, right? Now, I don't want to get into a debate about what's the imperialism in the world because there's people are still too man baby in their political mind to even have a discussion about that. They got to grow up, like, you got to get past kindergarten for that one. So I don't want to, but for the people for the adults in the room, you know what I'm talking about. There are countries who are very economically strong, very prosperous, have the capacity they could do a lot of violence, Vietnam is one of them. Vietnam is not going around the world invading other countries. They kicked America's ass, they kicked France's ass, but do they go around the world and beat up and take other people's stuff? No, they're not doing that. They're capable of fighting and standing their ground with women in their militaries, as I brought up last time. But they only do that for defense on the actual right side of history and for the right reasons, right? But the fascist countries with uncontrolled male violence, and imperialist countries with uncontrolled male violence, capitalist countries with uncontrolled patriarchal societies and male violence are the ones constantly. France, Britain, and the United States are currently, right? The G7 AUKUS. Look at these countries, right? They're the ones going around the world Hulk smashing everyone and taking all their shit. And then leaving a mess and then making other people clean it up. Like, hey, where's my wife to cook? Hey, indigenous people, we the Western patriarchal capitalist countries in 200 years have wrecked this entire planet, and we're having Category 7 hurricane fire tornadoes, droughts, floods, and ecological collapse. Where's my indigenous people? You be my wife and do all the cleaning. Clean up my mess. I'm not going to do shit. I'm just going to go, cry in the corner and ignore your work in 80+% of all the ecological sustainable regions of the earth that still exist are indigenous land. All the 25% of the carbon emissions of the United States and Canada done by indigenous people, disproportionately indigenous women, by the way. Very important fact. A lot of indigenous men fallen down on that job, Indigenous Environmental Network is one of those places where that's happening. So, but it's a similar attitude. It's like, I make a mess, I do whatever I want, I break everything, and then the women got to go clean it up. And then when they clean it up, right, like in Sandman, when they clean up my mess for me, I sit on the throne and take all the credit. Anyways, so good job cleaning up the mess, secretary. But now daddy's here. Let me give a speech, which is me running my mouth in front of the board of directors and 200-person audience. Go back to the library, secretary. No, this is the end of that shit. I mean, or do you want to continue down this bad path? Anyways, okay, so here's the thing, Bruce. I'm great at controlling my anger. I do it all the time, Jen says. When I'm catcalled on the street, when incompetent men explain my own area of expertise to me, I do it pretty much every day, because if I don't, I will get called emotional or difficult, or I might just get murdered. So I'm an expert at controlling my anger because I do it infinitely more than you. So, and also I just want to say, also Holly, I talked to Holly about a lot of this stuff, and I wouldn't understand much of the things that I'm even opening and saying with my mouth if, Holly hadn't helped me to understand this, because of course, I'm socialized as a dude my whole life, so I don't understand a lot of this stuff. So, and also I'm just saying, I'm not an expert on this stuff. I'm just saying this is basic stuff. There's much more to learn, and you can learn that from, listening to women. Just listen to women generally. There's usually some non-men and women around wherever you're at. They're everywhere. Try listening to that. But they know much more than I can know. So, but when I'm catcalled in the street, when incompetent men explain my own area of expertise to me, I do it pretty much every day, because if I don't, I will get called emotional, difficult, or I might get murdered. So I'm an expert at controlling my anger, Bruce, because I do it infinitely more than you, the Hulk, right? So and that summarizes basically the point, right? of one of the very very important points. Um, Somebody was, and there was a whole debate about catcalling. I was like, catcalling is a compliment. You should love catcalling because catcalling means you're pretty, and isn't that great? And somebody brought up like, the men catcall women. Like one woman was like, well, I haven't been catcalled since I was older than after I got older than 16. I never got catcalled again. I only ever got catcalled, and most women only ever got catcalled when they're alone, and the men are often in a car driving, or it's someone who's not going to respond. It's a group of men and then one woman. And it's not an equal. It's always a threat, and it's always degrading. They don't do that because they actually it's about reinforcing a hierarchy and being able to express their. Because imagine if ever the situation is reversed, like this doesn't happen, and lots of dudes, that's why like dudes, they're like afraid of gay people because they're like, oh, well, if a man treats me as a sexual object, if a gay man treats me as a sexual object the way that I treat women as sexual objects, well, that's terrible and horrible. We got to get rid of all these gay people, because what that says though is that when you're catcalling, when you're sexualizing unwantedly women or femme bodies, right? What you're doing, because when you think about it being done to you, right, you're like, no, that's even my dad, right? And my dad is like, he's a pretty like not, he's better than most dudes in the world, in the Western world, I would say, on average, relative to lots of other people that we know. But I remember he would even tell me like, yeah, I would get really mad when if there was a guy with the earring and I thought he was gay looking at me, I'll get really mad. I'm like, what are you getting mad for? What are you getting mad for? I'm getting mad, there's not really an explanation, right? But part of it is because you know that you are mistreating the women, and you're pretending like it's a compliment, but it's not. It's always a threat, and you don't want to be threatened, and that's why you're mad, right? But instead of like going, we should build a society where everybody is treated equally and not unwantedly having advances made and sexualized, instead of advancing that, you rather just like beat up and get mad at the people when it benefits you. And that's a very important thing too, which is that like, people that are even socialists and in unions, or socialists saying they're leftists but they're in unions, but there are people that join unions, right? Like the white men, like the AFL-CIOs. There's lots of unions in the U.S. and lots of European countries who tend to be of certain types of people, and those unions, you could be in the union, and that's not to say the unions are bad. Unions are important tools to help fight against capitalist boss power, etc. But if you have a unions where people are fighting only for their own personal benefit, right? And they're not there for other people. Like unions, there were many white unions in the 1800s, I'll bring up again, right? Who are like, we don't want unions. They did not unionize with Asians and with other people of color. Or they would bring in some black people when it was helpful. And then as soon as the white men got the raise, they would get all the black men out. And often they didn't include women, right? And that's one of the ways you can tell, like, whether the union is really, are you really in it because you care and you want an actually equal and just world? Or are you in it so that you can, because you are a person at this level of power, using the union as a tool to gain more money and power, which is the bourgeois unions. And so that is also a tool, the white man unions that have been used against. They're the class collaborations between the usually white capitalist class and the white working class to keep the system in place, and they're still used to this day, unfortunately. And so anyways, but that's another topic. But importantly, it's like, when you're it is threatening, it is degrading, it's dangerous, and I say this as somebody who like was around dude culture. Right? There's lots of stuff that lots of people did that's all bad. Like, ooh, it's so cringe. I was saying the R slur. Oh man, I was saying all this sexist, gross stuff. And it's like, that didn't make it right at the time. right? It just made you participate. It just meant that you participated in collective badness, and now, right, the collective norm is not as bad. It's not even good yet, right? But it's like not as fucked up as it was in the 90s when, you could be saying the R slur and using gay as an insult and all this kind of stuff on a regular basis. Now you still can in certain contexts, but in most contexts, at least I shouldn't say most. In a lot of contexts, that's not a thing that people are doing. But the difference is that, so the incompetent men explaining areas of expertise to me. So I've kind of talked about that, right? So it's like, being assumed, when it's assumed that you don't have expertise because of you presenting like a woman, then it's that's the fact that it even has to be explained, right, is already part of the patriarchy and the misogyny. It's so normalized that, oh, you look like you are a woman or a femme person, oh, you can't be an expert in that, right? I mean, that itself, and a part of that is like, it's the same thing as like, oh, black people, oh, you must be a criminal, right? Which is the expectation of most Westerners and Americans especially, right? Black people, that's why it's a black person with a hoodie, oh, absolutely, it's got to be stealing or mugging or a rapist or something. And like, well, it's like, look at all the disproportionately black people in prison. They're all criminals, right? They're all getting arrested on TV shows like Cops and NYPD Blue and all the police shows. They're all arrested. They're all criminals, right? Obviously, if we're gonna arrest someone, you should just go. It's always black on black crime, and it's like, because the people who are impoverished, number one, it's not actually the fault of people who had their entire people of that skin color and that background enslaved and impoverished. It's not their fault that they were impoverished to begin with, which equity needs to be restored under racialized capitalism. Number two, the over incarceration rates are because of the existing stereotypes, and it becomes a chicken and egg problem. And so it's kind of a similar thing where it's like, that stereotype, right, that is like black people are criminals, are doing something bad, and also are not intellectually competent because they don't have Anglo-Teutonic foreheads or some kind of phrenological neo-eugenicist bullshit, neo-social Darwinist thing. That it's not really neo; it's always been around. Similarly for women can't be in STEM. Women can't understand this. Women can't understand engineering and science and mathematics. Like, motherfucker, like, they're the ones that actually do disproportionate amounts of all that stuff, and they just don't even get the credit for this stuff. They actually like do disproportionate amounts of most everything, including like writing and making of shows and actually video games too, right? It's funny because like it's always the Gamergate people got riled up over. There was, I think was it Brianna Wu? There were women who were getting jobs in gaming. And they couldn't have gotten that job. They just got it because they had sex with the owner of the company or something. That was the whole Gamergate thing. That's what the whole global fascist, global right movement, Donald Trump, Bolsonaro, Boris Johnson, that was all off the back of Gamergate and Steve Bannon weaponizing the angry, white, rootless male energy, right? And so like, but the assumption was that the thing that started it off was this, one of it was like a woman came in and said the true thing, which is there's lots of male power fantasies in video games. Right? Anita Sarkeesian. And the other thing was women are getting jobs in game companies. They can't be qualified to get those jobs. Some guy on YouTube and Reddit, right, living in my parents' room at 35, having not actually put much effort into learning how to become a game developer, I one time made an RPG Maker half-assed game jam, and I deserve the job at Activision or EA or whatever game company that she got that job at. And so me and millions of my friends on 4chan and Reddit and on YouTube and on Steam and all these other platforms that are full of toxic, masculine, nasty, effluent, we are all going to team up and we're going to take her down, right? We're going to mass brigade that woman who got that job at that game company and take the red pill, feminism's cancer, and we have to undo that, and so Matrix made by trans women creators about, as a metaphor for transness, etc. But now it's anyways. So you know that story, but or I hope you do. So it's assuming that you are not competent at a thing because of your non-men gender, especially in women gender, is that's and that's incredibly frustrating. I mean, you can't really know what that's like if you've always presented if people have always seen you and reacted to you as male in your life, in your job, in your friends circles, right, in your whatever, right, and if you can't know what it's like to constantly have your competency, your intelligence, your knowledge constantly demeaned and underestimated and your whatever you say is dismissed out of hand because you have to be incompetent. You can't understand what that's like unless that had actually happened to you, right? And that is infuriating, it's frustrating, it's depressing, it's and dealing with that your whole life in a patriarchal society, which you have existed when you're born until you will, for the entire life as you have existed as a woman or as a femme person, for that entire life, you will be dealing with that thing, and it will be always. It doesn't get less frustrating. You just get better at managing at managing and controlling your anger, right? And so that's the important part. If you are at a bar or club, there's a scene where she's at that bar and there's a group of dudes that are out there, like at that scene where after the She-Hulk barroom scene, club with the group of guys scene, she comes out of the club and then there's all these dudes, who are just, let me see, I don't know if it's there. I cannot find. But she's at a bar and there's a bunch of like half drunk guys out there standing around, and then they start catcalling her, go like, hey girl, like come talk to us, and she's all like, oh, I'm just waiting, my boyfriend's gonna be here any second now, and they're like, what, are you too good to talk to? And they're like coming towards her like, and then at that point it's all like, what you don't know what's gonna happen. You could be murdered, you could be raped, murdered, all kind of terrible things. So she, it's like, again, it's like you're constantly in danger all the time, and it's especially when you're alone, which is when the catcalls happen. It's not like one guy and three women and then the catcall, because he knows he's gonna get his ego fucked up because he can't, scare and intimidate. If it looks like she's somebody who might say something back, it often doesn't happen. It's often dudes driving down the highway in their car, screaming out the window, right? Because they're cowards. Because most dudes are actually cowards, no matter how much fucking CrossFit they do, and no matter how much alpha testosteronator and steroids they take, and no matter how much fucking Tucker Carlson they watch. In fact, they get more cowardly because they think that their power and privilege and their white maleness will give them extra power ups when they get into fights or something, And then when they actually get pushed back, a lot of the cops actually, when they get fought back against, they all like fucking fall apart because they've never actually been fought back. They're usually just having a group of mostly white angry cops beating up on people who are disempowered because they don't have a fucking badge and the entire force of the goddamn empire on their side, right? But when the cops are like actually outnumbered, or somebody actually fights back, they're like, oh my god. It's like all the American and French and UK special forces soldiers fucking showing up in Iraq and like they're to gun down with vastly overpowered force at a distance, like American Sniper, gunning down brown people and like being, I'm such a badass because I killed 260 freaking sand N-words like Chris Kyle, right? The American patriot that Clint Eastwood celebrated because he's a racist, capitalist, imperialist piece of shit, Clint Eastwood, who also belittled the indigenous, woman who spoke on behalf of Marlon Brando, who just got an apology. What was it? I just quick shout out to shout out to Hollywood apology to the indigenous woman, right? Sachin Littlefeathers receives an apology for the 1973 Oscars mistreatment by John Wayne, Mr. White Man Cowboy, John Wayne, and Clint Eastwood, and he almost had to be physically restrained to stop from attacking her. The so-called hero of America, John Wayne, at the Hollywood Awards, which again it was Marlon. So I mean, Marlon Brando was somebody that you might want to think about. That's somebody who was less toxically masculine and fucked up than Clint Eastwood and John Wayne. I mean, he had the common decency to have, you know, a Native American woman come and accept an award on his behalf. In a time in which indigenous suppression was going up, and Hollywood was depicting indigenous people as these horrible savages who had to all be put down by white men with guns. The first time Sashi and Little Feather Academy in 1973, she was booed on stage at the Oscars, heckled with mock ululations and so-called tomahawk chops off stage, threatened with arrest and physical assault. Nearly half a century later, she will return to the Academy as an invited guest of honor for an evening of reflection. I was stunned. I never thought I'd live to see the day I would be hearing this, experiencing this. Little Feather's Apache, Yaqui, and Ariz. You know, John Romero, maker of Doom, is also part of his ancestry is Yaqui. But anyways, so the Academy apologizes 53 years later. Sorry, is it 50? Yeah, no, 49 years, almost half a century after attacking an indigenous woman. So I give you five Sandmans out of 5, you know, for almost apologizing. Oh, good job, Hollywood. You almost, that's like, I mean, what the fuck is it good? She's, you know, it's like fucking 50 years later, when it's convenient for you. Good, nice, almost apology. You know, it's like, that's like less than 0.1% of what you need to do. You racist piece of garbage, Hollywood. Also, you're full of fucking sex pests, horrible military-industrial complex propaganda, and you're run by, you know, self-centered pricks. Anyways, so, you know, you don't get cookies for that, Hollywood. So, I'm an expert at controlling my anger because I do it infinitely more than you. So, you know, it's like you know, you have to constantly be, oh my God, is that guy, you know, you have to smile. If you don't, even if you're not smiling, it's like, smile. You're not, why aren't you smiling? If you're not smiling, you're already being a quote unquote bitch. And if you know, you're emotional, why are you being difficult? Why are you being a troublemaker? All those women that were abused in Hollywood, right? Including Blade Runner's Sean Young, was called a troublemaker, right? All these troublemakers, difficult. You're just being emotional. Just let the sexual assault happen on the casting couch. You're just being emotional. This is just how it works. It's just this is how it works. You know, this is just the world. Why are you being difficult? You know, and so every time, and that's not just in Hollywood. That's everywhere. That's every office. That's every work. That's every household. That's every you know. We have to put up with a guy who is not picking up his fucking part and treating you like shit most of the time in most households, right? That's why 63% of dudes are finding themselves lonely on the Tinders, you know, on the dating apps, because the women are like, well, I'm just not gonna date you anymore. Maybe let's date another woman or date a non-binary person. It's not gonna date you, right? It's, you know, it's because, and the women have always been upset and angry and had to control it that whole time. Because if they ever got angry for those 70 years of their entire life or 80 years of their entire life, or what their entire life, right? Not just Bruce. The thing is, one of the complaints was, you know, again, you know, Bruce Campbell he had a difficult time. I forget, somebody said something like, what did they say? On this one, they said like, Bruce had such a hard life and he is being hounded by the military, and that was hard, and you know, that sucks, you know, and he's had to like control his anger, right? Where was it? I forget. I don't really want to put anybody on blast, but you know, it's like, you know, he was abused and hunted by the army, you know, and you know, he you know, he's very sad, you know, and like, you know, it's like, not to invalidate those experiences, but it's like, women are hunted by all men all the time, whether they, you know, injected gamma rays into themselves or not. You know, not for 15 years, their whole life. You know, imagine if you are being, you know, at any time at any time, you can be and are frequently sexually, physically assaulted, and you can be killed, and nothing will be done. Less than 1% of all rapes are solved. No, the police don't solve murders and they don't solve rapes. It just happens, and then the police are often committing them. And men don't believe the women on anything, and especially not when it's about sexual assault and rape, and they just like don't fucking care. So the Hulk was hunted for 15 years, but women, all 3.5 billion or whatever number, are hunted every day of their life forever. So it's like, even on that context, it's like, I mean, welcome. So it's like, and they've had to control their anger at having been preyed upon at every club, having been dismissed at every business meeting, having been turned down despite being 3 times as qualified as that dude to get into the Princeton, the Harvard, the university, being passed up for that job, being passed up for that promotion. They've been being threatened and then being sexually threatened by the boss, who said, well, if you fuck me, then I will give you a job. Oh, and if you say anything about me asking you to fuck me, well, then I'll make sure you never work. Every woman has always been fucking angry as fuck, and I only know this very late because I wasn't socialized that way. But like, if you are a dude, you have to try to understand that, and that's actually why I think that's what the director is saying, and it is what is the reality. Jen is able to snap between She-Hulk, and not She-Hulk at the flip of a switch, because she has had to control her anger her entire life in a way that Bruce is not even like beginning to comprehend, right? And I'm saying, like, that's very important. Like, this is incredibly important. Like, I'm not a fan of Marvel movies. I just dunked on Hollywood, and I fucking hate these billionaire capitalist arms dealer playboys and all of the Avengers bullshit. Like, it's one of my, if you watched my streams for the last couple of years, I'm going off of this. But like this, I don't even know what the rest of the show. There's only 1 episode out of She-Hulk. I don't know what the rest of the show is going to be about. But like, that stuff is like, it's like, if this is the way that if millions upon millions of dudes are going to watch this show, because it's a Marvel show with the Hulk and Mark Ruffalo, and they love Avengers, and they're going to watch that show because it's a Disney show and everybody watches these shows in the Western world. And they might, if let's say if 100 or 200 million dudes watch this show, and only 5% of them start to get a lesson from that, 95% of them just fucking like keep being man babies and rage out and go, yeah, quartering, you go get them, man. Get them, Tucker Carlson. Tell those wokes, man. Screw those women. If 95% of the men just go full double down on their toxic bullshit patriarchy, but 5%, 5 million go, holy shit, man, I never thought about that. That's still a market improvement, I would say. That's still a market improvement because it's almost none at all. So that's important. That's why I'm like focusing on that part of the show, because I don't know what else is happening, but that's, and the thing is, the whole first episode is that's really what it's dealing with. The whole first episode is really dealing with this topic. And it's hard. I mean, it's not really a thing that, it's really hard to, I know it's hard to explain and to get because I feel like I've been told this thing. I'm not the best at listening in the world. Like, sometimes I can be better, but then I can be worse, right? But I feel like I could have gotten this earlier than I have gotten it, and the reasons why I had not gotten this earlier in my life, and I'm like 39, and I'm not, and I'm like part of multiple, marginalized, groups, just as a non-white person and other things, indigenous and stuff like that. But, and that's the kind of stuff that I've been trying to do. I'm in the position where I'm, trying to be in the position of listening to those people that are being harmed, and those trying to help underprivileged, at-risk kids, and being paid enough to, walk to work. And I should be somebody who has more empathy and more capacity to hear this thing. It took me even then too long to understand this stuff. So that's why I'm saying, like, and part of what finally got me to get this stuff, because I feel like Holly has even kind of said some of these things, but it was, which, I mean, that's, it should have just been like, you heard it and then you kind of got it, but whatever it is, like, it took more. But you know what? Actually, one of it was having it kind of being confirmed by seeing other people, and women were like talking to other women, going like, this is, this, and they're like, oh yeah, I know that, and I'm like, holy shit, this is like, they're all saying this, and they're all like kind of like confirming and echoing, and then like, I don't know what it is, it's just like thinking, I'm also a science fiction writer, so I should be better at imagining these things, and I'm like saying like, if I'm not saying like again, I'm not saying like I'm some kind of, I don't need any cookies. I hope that dudes who watch and listen to this, some of them, some percent, a lot of people, I know a lot of dudes are gonna come in and they go, oh yeah, I'm here to like get mad about She-Hulk. Oh, fuck this guy. I wanted to just get mad about how She-Hulk has women. I wanted to criticize the plot and the quality of the writing, but actually I just like, I'm a misogynist, right? And those guys are just gonna bounce. But the goal is, I hope more people get it sooner, and also, I don't know, maybe like, I don't know, I don't want to tell what women to do or not to do. I can't really tell them to do that. But I do think that you don't give in to these fucking people and oh, well, I'll just cater to him a little bit more because his feelings and this and that. It's like, I mean, they've had that shit for a long time. I mean, it's the kind of same for colonizers. You're not gonna give capitalists, oh, it's hard for Elon to lose a few billion. Like, I'm not gonna fucking feel sorry for that shit, man. That guy's got all this power and all of his money, and the class of people that are the CEOs and the rich landlords and all those class people and colonizer entire nations, they've had it nice for the last multiple centuries. They don't need kid gloves. That's one thing I don't play with that generally on my streams. But anyways, so but it is a thing that's like, but that's why She-Hulk is important, because it's like it's a woman directing the show, and it's like it is more direct, because it's another thing, right? Sometimes you have to be really like told in a very straightforward and direct way, and in a very hard. I mean, that's what Neofeud is trying to deal with, lots of things that people need to understand that are not from marginalized groups, right? The poor, etc. Global South, that are not from a variety of minorities of people, not disabled in a way that it impacts their life in the capitalist world. And so sometimes, some people get mad at me because, Silver Spook, you're so ham-fisted, you're so on the nose. You should say it more civil like, and you should not do these things. And people, but it's like, I don't know. I mean, sometimes I'm like, maybe I should work it. I try to work things. I mean, it's not like Neofeud is not like the game that's about why racism and capitalism is bad. That's not what it is. But like, as you're deeper invested into it, then things become more real, and I'm gonna hit you in the head with it more directly, right? And like, this show is like, it's saying things more directly than I feel in the what the experience of being a woman in a man's world is like. There's not a lot of shows that, I don't watch all the shows, but this is a show that's like, I feel like it's important to watch it and then discuss it and then think about it. And I mean, discuss it, not debate, bro it. I don't think that's important. I know most of what passes for discussion in a lot of spaces is not. But it is carrying something important. And I mean, and you know me, I'm not gonna be here to stand any Marvel anything, and I'm not saying that everything else about it is the best in the world. I've only watched the first episode, but for that alone, I feel like it is important. Outside of however good the script is, oh, the CGI is too plastic, whatever complaints, I don't care about that crap, anyways, here's this thing. So yeah, so that's the important thing though, is that like. So women has always had to control their anger, no matter how angry they were, right? You can't, because it could be dangerous, it could be threatening. You lose your job, things that, I mean, if you're a dude and you get mad and you're like, I don't know, if you're working at McDonald's and you pick up the fryer grease and you throw it at your boss, yeah, you're gonna get fired, right? If you Jerry Maguire and like scream in the middle of your office building at your boss, well, he's already quitting. That doesn't really count. you could get fired. But it's far easier to step out of line and then get in big trouble, just trying to defend yourself as a woman, because you're expected to take it, you're expected to not, right? And so all of that, and just understanding that that's a reality. I mean, it's kind of like just being black in America is fucking infuriating, right? I mean, I know there's at least some of those, and some of the black and women that are often like a big teal, if I'm not mistaken, right? Has you being black in America is enough to make you want to fucking rage monster Hulk the fuck out. Like, what the fuck? What the fuck? They're fucking killing us on camera. What the fuck? And everything else you have to put up with. We're like 10 times poorer than the white people and the white family. The black family is literally, statistically, 10 times poorer. And then, not only are you black in America, and you're a woman in America, and I'm like paid like 70% of what the man's getting paid, and they can just fucking talk and walk over me. What the fuck? So shout out to all the black women and the trans black women in America who are the absolute guru, uber master, like, the gods of controlling anger. Shout out to all those black women, and shout out to Big Teal. As one of them. I'm sorry if I'm mistaken. You tell me, but I mean, it's like you have to control that your whole life, right? And Bruce, again, coming back to him, it's like, or as a dude, you don't, because you're not expected to, right? As a dude, you're just like, yeah, be angry, go be angry. That's what you're supposed to be. In fact, don't have any emotions but anger, and never go to therapy for it. Yeah, good job, boy. Yeah. Don't what? And if you start crying or you have emotions or you feel things, what are you, touchy-feely woman? I mean, come on, if you were socialized as I was as a dude, I played all the sports, I played football. There's the most fucking misogynistic. That's how they would make you hard in football, is be like, what are you, a woman? Oh, you didn't knock that guy over hard enough. What are you, little girl? It constantly, like, if you're not stoic enough, angry enough, and if you communicate anything other than rage and anger, and smartness and take credit for shit, you are degraded in the man culture, which is abusive to the men. I mean, which is not allowing the men to become full human beings, right? And then that's why I would never have identified as like a non-binary person in most of my life growing up, because that's not how we were socialized. We were supposed to be the men of the man, and we're not little girls. We don't have emotions, only anger. Only anger, only one-upping each other, only dick measuring. That's all we're doing, right? Whether we're in the office, in the university, in the courtroom, in the sports, in the field, in the playground, that's all we're doing. Nothing but anger. Nothing else, right? And so then, it's almost like if a woman expressed anger and she expressed it in a better and more accurate way, it would almost be like that could show up all the men who are supposed to be good at expressing anger. And so it's almost like, wait. We have to like put the She-Hulk back in the bottle, because like they actually have legitimate shit to be angry about. We're just fucking pissed off because we can't jack off to She-Ra now. That's not actually legitimate. So let's put it's almost like you might be emasculated at your capacity to show anger. Anyways, so and so that's like anyway. I feel like I've covered this many times, so I'm not gonna keep covering. But so that's why that's very important, and that's why I'm like leaving this up for so long. Jen, have you had military grade ammo? So it's like it's like that's a lot of responses, like, but Hulk he's had it so hard, he just had it so hard, he got shot, and he got shot, and it's like, I mean, it's fucking superhero bullshit, man. This is comic book movies, like, for one thing. But and another thing is like, but again, it doesn't like say like, Hulk's experiences are invalidated. It's not like his experiences are his experiences, like, I mean, a white woman's experiences doesn't invalidate a black woman's experiences, which is another thing. And it doesn't invalidate a trans black woman's experiences, which is a whole other thing. Or invalidate, I don't know, a black woman's experience in a country that the U.S. is bombing, like, areas of North Africa, which is another experience. And then each of those experiences don't invalidate the other experiences. Because that's one thing that people are saying, was that Jen's experiences are like invalidating Bruce's experiences, right? And if she wanted to, she could do that, but she doesn't really do that. And as I said, she's actually giving him. She takes until like almost the end of the episode, right? She goes through the whole thing, and because he has his binder of this is how to be a Hulk, this is how to control anger. He lets it. She lets him do the therapy, like the teaching you how to control anger with meditation for like several instances, and then finally she's like, okay, like, and then he's like, and then she gets like, and she's all like, Bruce, I can control my anger. He's like, no, you can't. There's no way that you can. She's like, yes, I can. And then she like hulks out. He's like, see, you can't control your anger. And she's like, no, Bruce, I'm doing this. And she like goes back and forth between She-Hulk and herself, illustrating the fact that she always could have controlled her anger. She was merely trying to be nice to, and again, like she's just trying to it's actually the opposite of trying to invalidate Bruce. She's trying to validate Bruce's time and energy that he spent trying to make this curriculum. He said, I was probably never going to have to teach how to be a Hulk class to anyone, because I never, but I made a book about it because I'm a science nerd, and I've been studying the process. So she's really indulging him for much longer than she needs to, right? So anyway, so that's a major thing too, because that, which is like it's really it's really the other way around. It's like she's really going out of her way to be extra nice, rather than like being a real dick. Now there's points where they are like, I forget. There's like the throwing the rock or smashing the hut, and there's a few points where it's like but it's not like anyway. I disagree with that. But anyways, also, what was the other thing? There's another thing. The other thing was that there were. Oh yeah, so the thing about Bruce is like the Mark Ruffalo character, right? The Mark Ruffalo character is actually a good example of how to deal with that and not be as toxic and bad. Because when she's like, "Hey, dude, you're mansplaining to me things that I know how to control my anger," right? Like after several days of letting him mansplain that shit, right? And again, like tolerating it, right? But then his response, he doesn't go like, "No, you're wrong. I have a PhD in anger, and I'm a man and I know what this is." He just like, "Oh shit," and she's all like, he says something like, "Oh wow, we're in totally new territory here. I had no idea you could like change your anger. You're in such good control of your anger that you could do that." Because I mean, you could be a really shitty dude and like double down and go, "No, I am absolutely right and you're wrong," and just, I don't know, gaslight her and do all kind of other crap, right? But he's just like, "Oh, now I am educated on this new thing. I didn't even know." Like Bruce Campbell, right? Or, sorry, not Bruce Campbell. Bruce Banner. Bruce Campbell's Mr. Chin's Evil Dead. Bruce Banner is like, "Oh my god, I have 7 PhDs," right? And like that's the joke in Thor Ragnarok. "I don't know how to pilot this ship." Well, he's one of your PhDs. He has 7 PhDs, but he doesn't have a PhD in being a woman. He doesn't have a PhD in controlling anger, but she does. She has like at least 3, right? And so would every woman already have one, right? So he's like, "Oh my god, this is a whole new domain this is a territory I didn't even know this territory existed," right? And so, but it's important that he has to like admit that he didn't know that existed and not go like, "No, you're wrong. Your experience as a woman is not true and not valid. Shut up, woman. Let me tell you how to be a Hulk and control your anger." Because it is. I know, because you can see it hurting his ego a little bit. He's like, "Oh shit," right? There is some point where he's like, there's a one part where they're like throwing rocks, right? And she's like, "Here, let me show you how to be a Hulk," and he like throws the rock like 50. He throws a boulder like 50 feet. It's like a 5-ton boulder. She picks it. Okay, now it's your turn. She picks up the boulder and throws it like 200 feet, and then he's like, "Okay, well, and he picks up a boulder and like throws it like off like to another island, right? Like 5 miles, and he's like, he's still like, "Oh yeah, I gotta show the women up. I gotta make sure I don't get out muscled by some women," and and then she's all like, very very good. But it's like, he still has that, one upsman testosterone dude thing going on there. So even though he's like, he's like Smart Hulk in that form. So he's like, Smart Hulk is like the Hulk that can control his anger at least somewhat, right? And so then, so he's okay, but he's still like, and then so but then like when it comes down to it, it's like, are you gonna accept, like, and also I'm making this decision to do this with my life. Are you gonna keep me as a prisoner on your little island and control the women in your life and make up reasons for why you're doing these things, right? Like, I don't know, Mr. Emo, because Mr. Emo Sad Man, there's like Mr. Sad Man, cry me your tears, like Edward Cullen drinking all the beers and crying. Anyways, so because he gets mad when people under in his purview, especially women, don't do what he wants. Well, he fucking loses it and just like erases them, right? He just like kills them. So that's actually one of the important tests, right? Are you going to pretend like you know more what you're talking about, and then are you going to like insist on controlling the women in your life's paths in their life? And so then he's not happy. He's like, I wish you would reconsider. I'll always be here if you reconsider, but if you want to try to live your life, I mean, I guess I can't stop you. And they get into a fight about it, right? But you need to have some fights because it's fucking superhero movies, and you gotta, the CGI and the special effects crew need a job, even though nowadays they're being paid a lot less and not making their labor value amount. But anyways, it's kind of like, it's like, yeah, I don't really know these things, and I can't control you, and here you go. So I mean, as dudes that are like learning this new reality, right? That's why it's actually like the Bruce Banner character's interaction with that, right? Did you know that it was always angering this whole time? I mean, maybe you didn't know. You probably didn't know, but I'm telling you, I can control my anger because this is how my experience has been for my whole life, right? And he's like, oh shit, I'm just learning that, and he doesn't like disbelieve it, right? And so anyway, that's like, so if you're looking for someone to model your life after, don't model it after Jordan Peterson and say that women should go back in the kitchen and stop being in my engineering jobs. Don't model it after Tucker Carlson and go, what we have to do is get rid of all the women-coded jobs and women have to take a back seat. Don't listen to all these patriot socialists who are like, all the screaming woke, quote-unquote rad libs. A lot of them are just women that are and non-men and trans and LGBTQ people who want equality. All those people gotta just shut up and stop and get behind our right-wing populism. I mean, our socialism under patriot American socialism, right? Don't follow those people because they are people that are continuing down the man-baby path. The white man party, man-baby, I get mad and scream at the camera path, without actual reasons to be upset. Those you should, I'm not saying you have to be fucking Bruce Banner. I'm just saying, like, as an example of how to interact with that, right? And the way that they're taking it, which is like, She-Hulk is all about, it's making them incredibly mad, and then in their inability to control their anger, right? They are all responding, right? In their inability to control their anger, they are all responding with shit like, and then not only them, and the people who make these videos know that other men, like all the Core Rings audience, right? Like all of Tucker and all of Mr. Hinkle and all these clowns audiences, they know that all of their audiences are full of angry man babies who are watching them and donating money and giving them Patreon money and giving them viewership and ad revenue to man baby out together about how upsetting it is to have a female superhero, how upsetting it is to have, right, a female indigenous superhero like the character in Prey, right? How upsetting it is to have women in my video games and the women that's destroying this world, right? And they all in their circle jerk together are, empowering capitalist, patriarchal, fucking white supremacist crap, you know, and you don't want to join that path. It's like at the end of the day, because that's where the imperialists of the Democrat and Republican, right, all stripes would like the United States to, like it always has, drive all of the spoiled white man babies into the fascist, into the National Socialist path. It's all about Germany. Again, very important for people to remember. Germany has already done this, you know, and they said Goebbels himself, right? Hitler's propagandist. I don't know if I brought it up on this. I know I brought it up on a Twitch stream. But Nazi Germany did not start out as we're the do genocide party. That's not how that started. It started out as anti-capitalist, just like patriot socialism. I have a theory that the patriot socialists of America and Tucker Carlson and those types, right? They're calling it patriot socialism because if they called it American National Socialism, it would be too close to National Socialism, which was the Nazis' actual full name, right? That's why it's patriot socialism, not National Socialism. But what they want is the same thing, which is what Donald Trump and MAGA always wanted, right? So Goebbels himself, this is the words of Goebbels, the Hitler's propagandist. He said, I can love Germany. So the young nationalism of Germany draws its absolute demand. Faith in the nation is a matter for everyone, right? Faith in patriotic American socialism or patriotic German, right? Socialism. The faith in the nation is a matter for everyone, never a group, a class, or an economic clique. The eternal must be is distinguished from the temporal. Maintaining a rotten economic system has nothing to do with nationalism, which is an affirmation of the fatherland. I can love Germany and hate capitalism. So again, this is Hitler's party. I can love Germany and hate capitalism. Not only can I must. So this is, again, it was anti-capitalist, right? Only the annihilation of a system of exploitation carries with it the core of the rebirth of our people. We are nationalists because as Germans, we love Germany. And so it's not like we're the hate Jewish people party. We're the racist Nazi party. It's we love Germany so much and we hate capitalism. And the problem is there's lots of non-white men who aren't on board with this stuff. Right? And so it's actually the US and a lot of Europe also. Sockdemism is just better mass Nazism, right? All of this. Look at Switzerland and Sweden and Norway and Finland all joining the NATO, the Nazi Atlantic Treaty Organization. They're waving their Nazi flags, backing their Nazis in the Ukraine. Like they're all going full bore with this shit because they always have. They've never not. All of the more Nazis in power in Germany after World War II than before. They've all been empowered and they've just been said, settle down and don't do as much public massacring of non-white people and Jewish people as you did because there was huge socialist countries, huge communist countries, right? To the east in Asia, like Russia, China, and there was, who actually won World War II, which was capitalists using fascism to try to stop the spread of communism, which is what they've always done. Anyway, I make this point all the time, so I'm not going to belabor that. But it's important people know that patriot socialism, and let's just talk about class and ignore settler colonialism in America and the genocide and the slavery that America was built on. Ignore racism, ignore sexism, just love America and dislike capitalism, and that's enough. That's exactly what Germany did. No, not just Germany. That's what Italy did, and that's what the U.S. did in the 1870s. And I'm not going to show you John Swinton's shit because it's disgusting. But if you want to like vomit in your soul, read John Swinton on the Chinese Question. He was one of the lead leftist union organizers and socialists in the late 1800s. He was a friend of Karl Marx himself. And oh my God, amazing racism. But anyways, so that's where like it's historically important for this to be addressed. This is not just like hearsay. This is like literally the history of the world and the history of the failure of history of the failure of the West to undo its broken ways, and capitalism included. So that's why another reason why you should learn this stuff. You don't have to watch She-Hulk necessarily, but it's a place where you can start to learn those things. And I feel like I'm repeating myself, so I'm gonna probably try to get out of here. But yeah, so again, I feel like I've talked about everything I want to talk about. Anti-wokeness is BS. The word, using the word wokeness, it's usually like right wing or crypto right wing people, or sometimes not so crypto, trying to uh, attack actual, valid non people of color, indigenous people, women, LGBTQ plus struggles, right? And so it's a kind of weird word that's been, it's kind of like the same, it's similar to the way the red pill was like made. It was a like left trans women making a movie, The Matrix, and the red pill as a kind of metaphor for their trans experiences, then turned into red pill means feminism is cancer, and as a symbol for the right wing, is like the wokeness was like it was often, if I'm not mistaken, right? A lot of it originated in like black social media culture, and then it was kind of used pejoratively to mean, right, that stuff that's messing up our, it's stopping us from saying the truth and having good comedy, right? It's stopping Netflix comedians from telling the real jokes, and we're not having real discussions because of all this wokeness. It's like, so anyways, but that's, so and there's bills being passed, right? And like stop woke bills that are banning, right? What's his name? Ron DeSantis in his Florida is passing stop woke bills, right? That will ban. The bill would have banned conversations, right? CRT. The thing is, this is really matters because CRT, critical race theory, which is just the beginning of conversations about racism, colonialism, sexism, and the reality of trans people existing at all, and LGBTQ plus rights, is already banned in most of American states, actually, or it's already banned, being stopped, or in the process of having bills being moved. And the bills are passing, and they're being enforced, by the way. Stop Woke Act that limits conversations surrounding race in schools and workplace, comparing the restriction to a First Amendment version of the upside down. From the hit show, the 44-page decision. The act is unconstitutional, right, that discriminates on the basis of viewpoints in violation of the First Amendment and is impermissibly vague. Trying to find the actual, Stop Woke Act would bar people from speaking about issues of race, of racism, of gender issues, of LGBTQ plus and trans issues in not just schools, in workplaces, in government, in any setting. It's just making it like you literally, they had the Don't Say Gay Act. Now this is to stop anything remotely good is just illegal now in Florida. And, there's a fight going on. But the reality is stuff like that is passing, and it is moving in the United States. So that's, so anti-wokeness, Tucker, I already talked about him. Andrew Tate was banned off of Instagram and Facebook, but he should have been out of there a long time ago, and the guy has millions of dollars already. And that guy, I think he was a pickup artist. Andrew Tate, what was that big news? He, American British internet personality, former professional kickboxer. He started offering paid courses and memberships to his website. He was a misogynist piece of crap, basically. Self-described sexist. He's like, I'm just a sexist garbage, right? And he was removed for being in dangerous organizations and individuals. There's a video of him beating a woman outside the show that surfaced, and he was removed. He's guarded backlash for his posts on social media, which domestic abuse charities have called extreme misogyny. Stated in 2017 that women belong in the home and that rape victims bear responsibility for their attack. Anyway, after Twitter permanently banned him from the platform. So, but this guy is important. This guy has millions and millions of followers and dollars, and he's a celebrity. And this is not the only guy. This is just like, social media companies and Democrat majority huge corporations, right, that talk about gender rights, and they have LGBTQ plus month, and all of the Raytheons and all of the Twitter and all the Facebook, they're all there for, for a little bit. They're kind of there for a little bit of LGBTQ plus rights. And then they make billions of dollars hosting Donald Trump. He got 10 billion plus free liberal and quote unquote progressive media coverage and social media coverage, and people like this on Instagram and all the other platforms have been allowed to be there and make all their money and say the most horrific, disgusting, misogynist crap and promote it amongst all the dudes, right? Just like this platform also has done this historically. And you're more likely to get demonetized and kicked down and removed for being LGBTQ plus or saying anti-imperialist things or saying anything actually left or left of Biden, right? So it's not just him. This is an entire system. Again, that's why it's kind of like I'm actually kind of like really surprised that this show is as at least the first episode is as good in the political sense as it is, because it's like the show has no right to be like that. It's kind of like Teen Vogue or Sabrina, the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. We're just watching some of that too. The show has no right to be that good. I mean, by all, I was expecting it to just be some crap. Wonder Woman was another show. I was like, I don't like a lot of DC. I don't like Gal Gadot because of the IDF problems, and I don't like Zack Snyder's universe. I don't particularly like those superhero movies. They're kind of boring and also like not good. I dunk on Zack and his Justice League a lot, but Wonder Woman specifically, and I think there's something to do with because I have a YouTube video specifically about Wonder Woman, right? Like, I have a video specific about it because of what it's saying. About the history of Wonder Woman and war. It just came out around the time of we're deeper in the era of the war in Ukraine, which is not being won by the Western world despite what they're telling you. But anyways, so this was also, but the reason why this show was better, a large part of that is because it was a woman director and they were more involved than in, let's say, Wonder Woman 1984, and other Wonder Womans that I think Zack Snyder, who is an authoritarian fascist piece of garbage and a bad director, I'm just going to say that, who killed the Superman and Batman reboots because of how even the actors and people who were working on those movies are like, this is not fun and not good to be working with this guy, and a lot of them they're like, maybe I want make some future movies, and they still said that. But anyways, Wonder Woman though was different, and I think because it has a similar angle on itself, and it's saying more important things, and so I think that's another reason why She-Hulk, which is directed by, I think it's the director of She-Hulk is not only is a woman, Kat Coral, but wasn't there somebody named Jessica Gao. The writer Jessica Gao. So the writer of She-Hulk is actually an Asian woman. So we're talking about Jessica Gao is the writer. So it's actually an Asian woman. So then that's a whole other experience, being an Asian woman. So you're already a woman, you're already degraded, and you're not listened to, and then you're Asian, you're already blamed for everything from smallpox, quote unquote Wuhan flu, and you can be beat up and killed at a moment's notice. All that together. So speaking of being very good at controlling, there's another uber ultra master at controlling one's anger is Asian women. I have those. Anyways, so that makes a real difference, I think, compared to a lot of Avengers that was written and produced and directed by white guys, and didn't have a lot of input, right? So I think that does make a lot of difference. I never get nothing like that in Iron Man. Scarlet Widow, the Black Widow, Scarlet Widow, Scarlet Widow, Black Johansson, what's her name? God, can't even remember people's names. Scarlett Johansson, that's the name. I don't know. I'm blanking everybody's name all at the same time now. Scarlet Widow, Black Johansson, Scarlett Johansson, Black Widow's character doesn't get nearly the level of exploration in anything like one episode of this show. So, and also most of Scarlet Widow is Scarlet was here's the sexy character, land with your butt sticking out and your hands up in the air, and Russia bad, and Russia abuses women and America doesn't do that, and Cuba is full of horrible, nasty killers, right? That was the point. I was like, Black Widow pissed me off so much. But anyways, so I mean, as Marvel characters that are that our women go. She-Hulk is like, way above all of the other crap. Wonder Woman 1984 is it's a giant U.S. Air Force and Navy drone programmer and pilot ad. That's what that is. And so I don't know about that. And Hillary Clinton, it's like young Hillary Clinton was cool, and the 90s are great because it was the heyday of American empire and Project for a New American Century, and we ruled the world. It's a giant ad for imperialist America. That's what fucking Captain Marvel was. I know that's what it was, and I haven't even seen very much of it. But this is, something is different. But I think that's one of the major differences. Anyways, I've been talking for a long time, so I'm gonna stop. One more thing. By the way, this has nothing to do with this show, but we did release in the last week. It's been less than 1 week, and it's actually been doing relatively well. A game called Indigistar. You might have heard about it. I uploaded a video of this game. So speaking of empires, and speaking of, the main character, it is the gender is not indicated specifically, like overtly from the beginning, because the main characters are not humans. But it is definitely a femme encoded character that is the main character resisting imperialism in this game called Indigistar. An empire arrives on your planet to eradicate and plunder, heal the land and people, prevent erasure of your native language and your culture, and confront invaders before it is too late. So this is a game that it is set in the world of Neofeud and Neofeud 2. It answers questions like, what if you've played Neofeud and you want to know what is the Garden of Forking Pass in Neofeud 1, not the book by Jorge Luis Borges, but if you want to know what is the Garden of Forking Pass, what did the Neo-feudal kings do after these clowns destroyed the Earth, right? If you want to know what those people did after Earth was gone, and lots of other questions, these are all explored in Indigistar, which is a game that it's a short game. It's not as long as Neofeud 2, but it is set in the world of Neofeud 1 and 2. And it is a game that is out now, and you can go get it right now and support. It does support everything that we do here at the Silver Spoon Cooperative. And I'm going to play the trailer quickly before we go, as my little plug.
For eons, the indigenous Bedu-Ora people lived in peace on their planet, in harmony with nature and each other. Hunter-gatherers sprouted into villages begot cities, yet millennia passed without war. Over time, the Bedu-Ora built great civilizations while maintaining the Garden of Eden, the mother homeworld which birthed them. They blossomed up toward the stars, sailed Hokuva'a, starships, across the galactic Silk Road, trading with other peoples. Now, the unhealed descendants of Roman trauma, the Utopian Empire arrives to eradicate and plunder. The mother Aina desecrated, the relatives broken, the water of life poisoned. Kailati, a peace officer of the cosmic tree, must heal land and people, prevent colonial erasure of native language and culture, and confront the invaders before it is too late.
Okay, so anyway, so Indigistar is out now. It is on, you can get it on itch. Get it on itch.io. We are like it's actually done, like there's actually even more than that, but I put the sale off about a few days ago. But if you would like to support us and reach the goal of $300 for the sale of this new indigenous sci-fi adventure in the world of Neofeud 2. You can grab it right now at the itch site. It is a game that is also, of course, made. I did the writing, the art, the programming, the music, and the animations and such. Also, it's a game that is about experiences of myself and other people of the Native Hawaiian country as a Native Hawaiian undergoing ongoing illegal military occupation. Let's see if I can find. So there's a game. I had a whole little thread about this. Where did I put that thread? It's a game that deals with obviously an empire arriving, right? Like the U.S. empire arrived in the 1890s, and not that one. Sorry, I got so many. I tweet so much I can never find my own threads. But it's a game. Yeah, here it is. So it's empire arrives to erase your culture and eradicate who you are. But it's also based on a reality of, again, the poisoning of our water. If you had not heard about what's happening in Hawaii, I talk about it fairly often. But the U.S. military has spilled tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of gallons of jet fuel into our water supply. It is currently still doing that, and nothing is happening. They're still burying this reality. There's parts of the game where you have to try to help people children who are being sickened by the water. This is somebody who literally, a Hawaiian child. There are many other young people and adults who have been hospitalized, thousands of them actually, by the U.S. military, literally poisoning the water supply where I'm from. And so the scenes in the game where it's like my child has collapsed, they must be poisoned by the water. Help us, please. So you actually have to deal with these realities, and not just Hawaiians, people all around the world have to deal with culture, erasure, military occupation. Okinawa is currently having massive PFAS. Guam, everywhere there's a military base, which is all over the world. Most countries of the world have a U.S. military base, are dealing with that as one of many things. And so that's one of the things you're dealing with in the game, is trying to it's like what if a U.S. empire were to show up in your front yard, or any empire, poison your water, right? Rip your children out of your arms, right? Ban your language. What would you do, right? If you pick up a gun and just start shooting at them, well, they just wipe you out fully. But if you don't do something, well, they just keep wiping your children out. So either way, you are in a very difficult position. And so that's one of the things that it's kind of like, it's very difficult to communicate that. But when you have to actually be the person that's being massively in real time, right? Like this kind of stuff is happening. This is not happening like last century. This is right now. This is what's happening to the children right now as we speak. The U.S. is pretending like it doesn't exist. And because it's an empire, and because everyone goes along with it, everyone else is also just going along with it, left, right, and center of the United States. Kamala Harris was in Hawaii yesterday. She came to Kauai because she knows that Oahu's water is tainted, so she didn't stay in Waikiki, which says you shouldn't either. But nobody should be, right? And certainly not the sellout non-white woman who is making the empire look good, Kamala Harris, right? And but she didn't stay in Oahu because she knows that the water is currently not safe to drink, and it never really was. She stayed in Kauai on her own personal, private, fancy little getaway. The University of Hawaii is studying U.S. military jet fuel that's still in the water. The University of Hawaii, so the university system put up a study that showed the water was toxic, and then they took it down again. So the University of Hawaii, academia of the United States, is actively lying, and thousands of children are going to these schools and getting sickened, and they're being hospitalized. With the complicity of the every level of Hawaii is complicit. Every level of the illegal U.S. occupation of Hawaii. U.S. banned their language and culture. I mean, when I talk about language erasure, this little girl was punished for speaking Hawaiian in 2022. Do you know what happened? The teacher still has her job. The principal still has her job. The superintendent still all have their job. Nothing happened to the teacher. 2022, this girl was put outside for speaking Hawaiian. The language erasure continues to this day. So this is not last century, in a black and white photograph, people's languages are being erased. No, it is happening every second of the day in 2022 in the so-called state of Hawaii. Languages are being wiped out. What do? You pick up a gun? What do you vote? Well, I'm not saying don't vote, but I was like, is that all you do? What do you do? Do you protest? Do you not protest? What do you do? Right? That's the question. So that's what in Digistar is like. It's like in real time. What do you actually do? Which is you try your best to alleviate the problem, alleviate the poverty, you struggle against that because the resources that would allow you to alleviate your own poverty are being stomped on and stolen. You're getting speaking of controlling your anger, you're getting more and more upset. You want to take out a violent action at the illegitimate empire, but if you take a violent action, then they'll just come 10 times harder and justify your entire massacre, which is what the U.S. has done that again and again. Not just the U.S. They've wiped out entire indigenous peoples off the earth. You don't even know who they are because they're gone. Thousands of peoples are gone. In Taiwan, there's at least a dozen I know of. They don't exist. The language does not exist in this world because every single one of them were chemically gassed to death in response to a violent uprising. So what do? When you're an indigenous person overpowered by a huge empire, having your water poisoned in 2022 in a so-called advanced modern city, having your children ripped out of their parents' arms? What do? So again, that's the very real part of Indigenous Star. It's not just that, but again, I don't make games that are for bullshit. I don't make games that are apolitical. I only if you play Decolonators, that's the most in your face that I think I've probably ever made. But it's not just about that, but it's important that like it's fun and it's science fiction and it's an adventure game and it's got some comedy. It's not quite as directly funny as Neofeud, but it deals with those topics. It deals with the characters are like, this is your ancestry, this is your heritage, and you seek to erase it. What could possess you to do such a horrific thing? One of the characters is erasing their own patterns and heritage. It's kind of like when my mom straightened out her frizzy, they would call her, she would be identified as a black woman in North America, right? Here it's like she looks like a lot of Hawaiians have a similar hair texture. It was like watching my mom straighten her hair and de-Hawaiianify and whiteify her own self. Take her black hair texture and then straighten it out and constantly be worried about, am I going to look too black today? Am I going to look too Hawaiian today? And not just that, in erasing her clothing, but we all Hawaiians, indigenous people, are asked to erase everything about ourselves. And we're trained to do that in the school system, right? And so there's a character who's like, well, the old ways are stupid and that superstitious bullshit never got anywhere. All this woo-woo talking to plants and rolling in the dirt. Why are we going to do indigenous gardening and indigenous nature bullshit? That's bullshit, man. I want to go to California and make money. I want to go to New York and be famous and make money. This garden, farming is not a vibe, listening to Western celebrities, right? And so so colonizer school, what if the school system itself is eradicating your own children's culture and heritage? What do? Homeschool? Well, what if you can't afford to? What if you don't have time because you don't have enough money because you're an underprivileged person surviving capitalism, right? We'll get a new curriculum. How are you going to do that? Nobody listens to you. You're an indigenous person, And so, but those are, and so those are speaking of things that people in privileged positions don't understand. Part of the game is helping people understand how frustrating and how difficult that situation is. I don't know what you're talking about, Mom and Dad. We were just backward Indians in this Western world and the Western galaxy brought roads and electricity and stuff. Come on. Everyone learns that in school. Hawaii didn't have any advancement. We were just a bunch of primitive natives and America saved us. That's what most kids believe. Even the ones who went to a fancy university in Hawaii. Hawaiian kids. They don't know the history that I try to teach on this, which is that the U.S. deindustrialized Hawaii. They don't know that. And so that's a big point of the game. So what do you say to that kid? Well, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. Do your research, Mom. Do your research. Research it on a Western Wikipedia textbook. Or, you should research it on this non-Western site in China. Well, that's state-affiliated media, Mom. Teacher. I don't believe I don't believe things that have state-affiliated. But did they put a U.S. state-affiliated media on the blue check marks from America and the UK? Anyways, does the University of Hawaii, does UH Michigan, does the University of Michigan, does your local public school say state affiliated media on the textbooks? They don't say that, do they? Anyways, and then you have to deal with a smiling ass imperialist piece of garbage who's trying to make America look nice and LGBTQ plus friendly while blowing up all your people and killing them. So the game is very much about exploring those topics. dealing with the colonial capitalist powers of the Milky Way that are were quite strong, but now the allies of the U.S. The Utopians are turning on them as they run out of new terra nullius to plunder, and win-win communist networks expand from a sea to shining sea, all 7 of them, and from Sagittarius to Orion. This game is a science fictional game, so it's the entire galaxy is like the planet in one sense. But anyway, if that sounds interesting to you, do check it out. Digistar is up available, and yeah, that's out, and that should be the end. So again, my final word is I give Hulk 4.5 screaming man babies out of 5. Or She-Hulk gets 4.5 She-Hulks out of 5. Episode 1 anyway. Watch it, learn from it, and just try your best to try to listen to that. Just try. Neofeud is also though available on Steam. It's on itch.io. It does support everything that we do here as always. It's not on sale right now, but it is on Steam and itch, and so consider picking that up. It's a cyberpunk adventure game that you just probably have seen the trailer for, so I'm not going to show it again. But it does support everything that we do here. It's like Stray, but without a cat protagonist, but cyberpunk game. It's like Papers, Please. I'm not sure. Actually, I'm not sure why it's like Papers, Please. It's like Disco Elysium, but more cyberpunk. In that it's made by leftists. It's like indigenous cyberpunk Disco Elysium, because Disco Elysium is made by Karl Marx and Engels stands leftists, but I think they're living in the UK and they're from Estonia. Anyways, you can also find Neofeud on itch.io. You can find all these games also on itch, and it does support everything that we do here. As I said already, it's on sale there for Windows, Mac, and Linux. It's also a game that maximum revenue comes when you buy it on itch as well. So consider doing that. And you can also get, as I said, I only make political games. So people are like, Spook, why are you being so political for all of a sudden? Obviously, you haven't played Decolonators, which is a game where you kick capitalist colonizer butts out of Vietnam. And you play not only a woman, but you also play a Vietnamese communist woman beating the shit out of the U.S. empire and using a Soviet tank to blow them out of the sky as they try to commit genocide on your people to prevent the spread of communism. And by extension, gender equality. So this is I feel like She-Hulk would support this game. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, Decolonators is also on itch, and it does support everything that we do as well. And also you can find, speaking of women, and of course major shout out to Holly. I have to remember to always try to give Holly credit for lots of stuff, because otherwise I'm going to be a piece of shit and a hypocrite like Sandman and lots of dudes that piss off She-Hulk. So yeah, thanks a lot to Holly for, of course, a lot of stuff I had to talk this stuff through with Holly about these realities. Holly does moderate as always and helps us do so much work with the care work and keeping things on the schedules and planning things out here at the Silver Spook Cooperative. And Holly also writes books like Woman, which is a book about being raised in a North American evangelical Protestant Christianity, like where Jordan Peterson's from, in so-called Canada, and is also a retelling of the Bible from the perspective of Mary, and also dunking on that kind of bullshit. So if you want to, you can also get this book for free, or you can throw some money our way when you pick that up through a donation. And also you can support us, of course, at patreon.com/neofeud. Over here, you can give us ongoing support, and you do get access to in an ongoing fashion our updates, as well as the Silver Spook Discord, and help us keep making these streams and these videos possible. We do have a goal. People like to see that people have like goals that are going to support specific things in the world. So we do have a goal. The first goal, we have a few goals, but the first goal is to reach somebody became a Patreon. Whoever became a Patreon, thank you very much. We have a goal. Our first goal is, of course, $750 a month, which would allow me to spend, I'm spending more time because we're getting there, but if I could spend a lot less time having to market and figure out other ways to make money and do other things, if we got to 750 and at the 1,000, at the 1,500 level, I wouldn't have to be doing lots of other work because I do like a lot of other work on things that I would not be doing to make up the difference. So, but at 1,500, that's another goal. But the first goal is to get to 750 in Patreon patronage. One of the things that we have done, I saw a little picture of it on. I don't have time to get it right now, but we did finish all the money that comes into the Patreon is not just going to buy yacht. We don't buy any yachts, but we buy the electricity and the lights and the vehicles that we have to pay for. Insurance is a lot. You know, it's like hundreds of dollars a month for each car, and which we need to get the water and food that we need to exist, and the kids and the food. But one of the things we did this month was actually to with the money from the Patreon was to in the last 2 months we actually, me and my daughter, helped to fix holes, patch like the roof. This is not a new house, like 40 years old, and really the roof has not been updated in decades, I think, based on what I'm looking at. And so like we had to like patch holes, sand it down, and seal it, and then put over a new layer of siliconized like long-term durable paint, which is not cheap. And it was like it's about 20, 40, it's like 1,000 square feet, and we have more to do. We have not done all of it, but we've done like the entire 1,000+ square feet of the top. It's like an entire huge, 80 feet, like 40. Yeah, it's a lot of roof. So that's where the Patreon money went, as one of the places that it went. So that's what it's going to, is just to make sure that we have a place to exist in. Thank you so much to all the existing Patreon, whoever just became a Patreon. Thank you very much. To Magni, and like as I always do, I will add everybody onto this list. I'm sorry, I'm not the best at fulfilling all these rewards, but thank you very much to thanks to Magni for becoming a Patreon patron, and thanks to everybody else on the list, of course. It is massively appreciated, because without your help, there's no streams. I'm already cutting the streams down. Like, I'm doing less streaming per week because I got focused more on making money and stuff like that, so we can continue to exist. I used to stream like, more like closer to like 15 to 20 hours. Now it's down to like I do 4 streams a week on Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday on Twitch, and that's cut down to it's about like 10 or less because I gotta do other stuff. So thank you to all the Patreon patrons for helping us continue to make this work. And yeah. Also, okay, so now let's get through. I took a little longer on that, so let's get through the rest of it. Thanks. You can also follow at SilverSpookGames at octodon.social, or you can follow at SilverSpookGames at mastodon.social on Octodon, and on Mastodon, which is a decentralized, non-capitalist, federated, open source social media platform. However, while we have access to, as I often say, the Death Star's satellites, because I don't know that we still for some reason have access to them. You can follow at SilverSpook Guy SilverSpook Guy for my personal takes and when streams go live and stuff like that. And you can also follow SilverSpook Games minus the E and Silver for the games related stuff. So SilverSpook SILVR Spook Games for the games related stuff like Neofeud and updates on Indigistar. Oh, they also check out Achimo Games' Hill Agency, another indigenous cyber noir game that I'm actually a good friend of the creator. That character is from Neofeud, that guy right there. Anyways, so do follow that as well. But SilverSpook Games is for game stuff. Terminus C is the Twitter account for Terminus Cyberstar. At Terminus C, which is a game that is I am the content director and lead writer on this game, and it is the game that is like a cyberpunk RPG in the vein of things like System Shock and Deus Ex and Cyberpunk 2077 by extension, although it's not a big AAA game. And so this cyberpunk RPG is nearly completed, with the exception of the testing and optimization. So it's nearly all the main world is built out. It's just basically in the testing phase. So if you want to follow that game, you can follow at Terminus C and join the Discord if you want to do that. And yes. Oh, I'm also on Instagram, so you can follow. Also, I'm posting more. I'm trying to post more to Instagram now. I'm trying to be better about promoting. We have all the social media. I post to Instagram. I post to Facebook. I post to Tumblr. I post to Twitter. I post to Mastodon. I post to like Discord, like all these different. I'm like all over the place, because that's what you got to do. Otherwise, nobody's gonna find out, and then you don't have a company. Um, so and then everybody gets to go work for McDonald's and work for horrible corporations. So you can also follow Holly at the Tech Fairy, mod VA and producer here, mod producer and writer for Xanattack or the Lounge with Kate Nix, who also plays the main antagonist in Decolonators. And the show is coming soon. The new season of the show is coming. And Holly's also a writer, as we showed earlier, and parent, and also the parent of Kiki with the children, and also the manager and lead organizer, keeping everybody organized here at the Silver Spook Cooperative. And also, you can follow Lima Hana. Lima Hana is another Native Hawaiian at Kanaka Socialist, working on making a book, writing a book about Hawaii and socialism and the history and the future that I have helped contribute to. So do check that out. Very, very important work. Speaking of education, it's very hard to find indigenous Hawaiian education that tells the truth about history and our culture and everything. There's lots of American curriculum, religious, not religious, atheist, 20 different flavors of it. But there's not a lot of curriculum when you want to actually educate children in the truth, which the U.S. doesn't do. It's actually illegal. So that's why they banned CRT. But anyways, you can also follow comma_1983, Positive Synergy, who shares things about stopping desecration, stopping shutting down Red Hill, Lamback, and also is a musician as well. Speaking of music, one last thing, since I talked about colonizers, and I just want to give this one more shout out. If you really, if you're into like Sabrina, if you're into like occult stuff, demons, you like Corpse Husband, and like, demons and witches and hell and doom, I saw that meme. It's like girls having a get together. Oh, let's do some summoning of demonic forces. Yay, let's do it. And then dudes playing like a, space shooter. Where the hell do all these demons keep getting summoned from? So if you like fighting the demons in FPS, or you like summoning the demons, either way, and you don't like colonialism, this is an entire metal album that I made that's about all those topics. And you can also get that on Bandcamp, along with lots of other music. So thanks so much to everybody for watching. Thanks Big Teal for sticking on the whole time. Thanks Holly again for modding. And until next time, keep your shades polished, be excellent to each other. Remember that women are already experts at controlling anger and don't need a lesson from Bruce Banner. And but be like Bruce Banner and accept that reality and get educated. Control your anger and don't get mad about that reality. All right.